Welcome to our October meeting and welcome to our Zoom viewers this evening. Due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with newly legislated state government requirements, the October Ordinary Council meeting will be undertaken as a virtual meeting, conducted using webinar facilities. The council chambers will be closed to members of the public. A link to the council meeting for viewing by members of the public will be available via the council website. Recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused or transmitted without the prior consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on Council's website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people and respects the history and culture of elders both past and present. I will now call on Councillor Gibbons to offer the prayer. Councillor Gibbons.
Are you with me now?
Yep, I can hear you, Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you, dear Lord, for always being among us. We ask you for guidance and inspiration as we endeavour to make decisions for our community. I thank you, Lord, for the quality and knowledge of management, staff and councillors and the commitment to our local area. Thank you, God, for the abundant spring and the beauty this brings to our countryside. And I place these prayers before you. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Gibbons. Record of attendance. Councillors, we have a request for leave of absence this evening from Councillors Don Capel and Brenda Lyon. Could I have a mover to accept Councillor Capel and Councillor Lyon's request for leave of absence, please? Councillor McKibben, thank you, and Councillor McCarthy. All in favour? Thank you. Any declarations of interest this evening, councillors? No declarations, thank you. We're on page 6, councillors, item 6, presentations. I'd like to welcome Lauren Trembath from the O'Connell Valley Community Group, who'd like to make a presentation to us this evening. I'm assuming that Lauren is online.
I'm here.
Lynette, can we get visual on Lauren? Thank you. Good evening, Lauren. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Okay, I'll ask for the presentation to be commenced, please. So thank you very much for this opportunity to present on behalf of the O'Connell Valley Community Group. If we go to the next page, please, Sharon. So I just wanted to discuss the current DA for Belvoir 10/2020.36.1, and the issues that we're going to cover are the Oberon Development Control Plan, land use conflicts, the LEP and the O'Connell Heritage Conservation Area, public interest, building envelopes and impact to heritage conservation area, tree planting and lots and access points. Next page. As I'm sure you're aware, the B4 Objective State Council is obliged to promote high quality subdivision within the Oberon Council area, which minimises adverse impacts on the environment. The O'Connell Valley Community Group would like to see Council move urgently on updating the Development Control Plan to ensure these developments and future developments do not continue to reduce the local rural amenity and is up to date and reflected of 2020 and beyond. I'm not sure how long before we can have an updated DCP. There appears to be no date or plan, and at this rate, developers will take advantage and will have changed the fabric of the community and moved on without bearing the consequences of poorly planned development. Surrounding councils have updated their DCPs. Blaney 2018, Bathurst 2014, Cowra 2014, Mudgee, also the Midwestern 2013, the Upper Lachlan 2010, and Lithgow has a draft in progress. Why can we not get ours updated? Until a new DCP is developed, we urge Council to use the full extent of the current DCP when considering development applications, and in particular this DA, as it is within the heritage conservation area. It's quite different. Rezoning does not greenlight development that does not appropriately consider or respond to local impacts, constraints and sensitivities. The statement of environmental effects prepared by Vorman and Stratset for the developers Newton Rural grossly underestimates the impact of the rezoning of the Belvoir 6-lot development with 5 additional lots at 2451 O'Connell Road. It sits within the O'Connell Heritage Conservation Area, classified as a conservation area by the National Trust in 1974, and in 1978 was listed on the Heritage Register of the National Estate. O'Connell has the only heritage conservation area in Oberon Council local government area. Move to the next page. And this is just about potential land use conflicts now that we have a large RU1 property. It's being split and now blends and confuses zoning objectives. Next page. The heritage historical significance. Clause 5.10.5 of the Oberon Local Environment Plan states that Council will require a heritage management document to be prepared. Assess the extent to which the carrying out of the proposed development would affect the heritage significance of the heritage item or heritage conservation area concerned, where the land adjoins or is in the vicinity of a heritage item or conservation area. The Oberon LEP requires Council to consider how a development identifies, protects, conserves and enhances Oberon's natural assets, and to identify and protect Oberon's built and cultural assets for future generations. Can we request that a heritage management plan be obtained prior to the approval of this DA? Next page. And this is just a little background, I'm sure everyone's aware, but it's just to refresh everyone that the O'Connell cultural landscape is significant as an intact example of continuously functioning rural landscape. We have some of Australia's oldest inland pastoral properties and structures. The Cox's Road is an historic staging post and key to European colonisation of inland New South Wales. There is strong historical association with the Hassel family, a prominent pioneering family in colonial New South Wales, and there is high significance for aesthetic values as an intact, picturesque pastoral setting, including its historic buildings. And there is high potential to yield archaeological information on vernacular building technologies and traditions. And the next page, please. The rural aesthetic. We do not believe the key views to the O'Connell Urban Conservation Area have been adequately considered, and the developers are playing with words such as Council must confirm what determines or constitutes a visual impact on the O'Connell Heritage Conservation Area. We do not believe the location of future dwellings and outbuildings has been considered fully by Council. There is reference on page 75 to the development being referred to the Council's Heritage Advisor. The developer refers to requested additions and amendments being made as per the Heritage Advisor's request. These amendments appear to be just the inclusions of ridgeline and protection of Cox's Road. Council notes, Lot 10 adjoins a portion of the Heritage Conservation Area, however, with careful placement of a future dwelling on the western portion of proposed Lot 10 can avoid unreasonable impact due to the ridgeline running through the centre of the allotment. Personally, the Valley Community Group do not believe that it should be approved in this DA. It is clearly going to be an issue, and the developer is making an issue for council to deal with. The developer is aware of their obligations with regard to the heritage conservation area and should be asked to fulfil this request. Has the Heritage Advisor reviewed the amended plan and approved and aware that no building envelopes are being provided, although this was a request from council? And the OVCG would like to see restrictions imposed to prevent further subdivision if greater than 20 hectares due to this land being within the heritage conservation area. Next page. Actually, we can just pass that next page 8, Sharon. I think it's a little bit repetitious. I went over it myself today. Public interest. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Act requires the public interest to be considered when assessing development applications. Community responses are part of the public interest on the basis that the overall objective of the EP&A Act is to provide more public participation in the planning process. The O'Connell community have placed significant public interest in the proposed subdivision, its pattern and design, as well as others surrounding the heritage conservation area. What has become apparent that no matter how many submissions or requested considerations from the community, the council are passing DAs in the current DCP, although very out of date, could be used to set conditions when approving a DA. It appears to be a very narrow use of the current DCP, but again highlights the urgent need for an updated DCP. 2001 is just too old compared to the other councils who've taken the time to update. If we could just go to the building envelopes, please, next slide. The objective of the R5 large lot residential zone is to provide residential housing in a rural setting while preserving and minimising impacts on environmentally sensitive locations and scenic quality. The heritage conservation area will be impacted if any dwellings are approved and no building envelopes provided as part of the DA now, as discussed earlier with regard to lot 10. The developer stated that the application does not seek approval for any dwelling buildings or the structures apart from driveway entrances to each lot. Therefore, potential impact on the heritage conservation area cannot be tangibly assessed or concluded at this stage. However, the developer, in his response back to council, 27th of July 2020, regarding amendments on page 91, was highly dismissive of the heritage conservation area and dwelling envelopes, with comments such as, council must also confirm what determines or constitutes a visual impact on the O'Connell Heritage Conservation Area. And again with, the ridgeline has been added to the plan to demonstrate this. It would be inappropriate to restrict dwelling sites upon or on the eastern side of the ridge when the dwelling may well have a positive visual impact on the heritage conservation area. I'm not sure how that would be positive. We request that as part of the approval of this DA that our councillors move an amendment to the DA to include building envelopes for lots 10, 11 and 12 and 13 to protect the heritage conservation area as per clause 5.105 of the Oberon Local Environment Plan. Request the developer to lodge an amended plan and make this conditional to the DA being approved. The onus should not be on the council on such a significant heritage conservation area. The developer, when purchasing Belvoir, would have been fully aware of the significance and obligations to retain and protect the heritage conservation area, and they cannot now say that it's not an issue. So go to the next slide. There's also tree preservation and plantings. The council has approved developments such as Warrego Lane and is now spending $140,000 on tree plantings when this should have been the responsibility of the developer at the time. Council formed a tree and landscape committee for the Oberon LGA, but in O'Connell, the Oberon taxpayers' funds are now being used to fix what a developer should have been requested to provide as part of the DA approval. Tree plantings on lots 10 and 11 and 12 should be part of the approval of this DA on the ridge lines to protect the heritage conservation area, as well as Beaconsfield Road across the frontages of lots 10, 11, 12 and 13, and again on Box Black Road to protect rural vistas and provide koala corridors. O'Connell is well known as a koala habitat and it should be protected. We request that councils move a tree planting amendment as conditional to the approval of this DA. Next slide. Lots and access points. There have been considerable upgrading of the fencing and at the same time new fully recessed access points replacing some existing farm gates on Box Flat Road. However, the amended map only references 2 existing access points and the proposed gates for lots 10, 11, 12 and 13 would be an existing one on Flat Road. There are new access gates on Box Flat Road, and the question would be, were these approved by council prior? And what is the process to put in new recess gates? Lot 13 is a curious anomaly on the map. It has an access point marked on the map, page 85, but an old cattle gate that existed at the corner of Box Flat and Beaconsfield Road is now a new fully recessed access point. Was this council approved, and why would it sit on the corner of lot 13 when another access gate on Box Flat Road is indicated to be the access point? Will it be removed? It would be a traffic hazard if it was used as it is now. Beaconsfield Road access points. Will the developer have conditions set to ensure that existing trees are not removed to provide access to lots 10, 11 and 12? Page 62 of the council report refers to 2 access points to lot 15, which I think is an error. Figure 5 is on Beaconsfield Road, but figure 4 would be the corner of Beaconsfield and Box Flat Road, and again, a traffic hazard at this intersection, but I do think that's an error. Lot 14, O'Connell Road, a new fully recessed access gate has replaced a single stop gate, and Google Maps can be referenced to see the old cattle gate in position. Has RMS approved this gate, and is there a plan to use this as an access point for this current DA or future DAs? Because there is a correlation between line of sight and speed. Are these plans to reduce speed limits on Box Flat or Beaconsfield Road and potentially O'Connell Road? We are not requesting this, but are asking council if there is a plan, and again, reducing speed limits as the area becomes a suburb and not a mixed rural area. And the next slide. In conclusion, the O'Connell Valley Community Group urge Oberon Council to be mindful of best planning principles, environmental law requirements and statutory obligations in its consideration of our concerns. The GCP, although out of date, must be used on its fullest extent to assess the DA application as this. The community response reflects major public interest in this development and the recent condo development within the heritage conservation area. We would particularly ask that before approving this DA, that due consideration be given to the heritage conservation area with conditions for tree planting and the impact to the heritage conservation area due to the proximity of this subdivision, and request a heritage management plan, and defined dwelling envelopes be a condition to protect the heritage conservation area. If those defined dwelling envelopes are not put in place, a purchaser of that land is going to find out how restricted they are when they put in a DA to council. And I think that is not the correct way that this land should be handled. They should be very clearly marked because of the proximity to the heritage conservation area. It doesn't really impact other developments in the same way, but as I said before, the developer purchased this land knowing full well that they sit within the heritage conservation area and they need to have some responsibility and not just push it back to council and potentially taxpayers when trouble arises with new people coming in and wanting to build their homes on a piece of land that they paid a lot of money for. And in actual fact, they're quite dud. We'd also like to see the access points. We would also request that all access points are updated on the plan, are relevant, and confirmed that all have been approved by council and the RMS where applicable. The O'Connell Valley community are not against development and see it as the future, and a good percentage of residents already live on lots that have been split from large RU1. I myself. These are not people with sectional interests or wanting to keep O'Connell in the 19th century. What the community are seeking is the planning and development be mindful of this beautiful heritage area and that new developments are well planned. And we as a community can only rely on our elected councillors to ensure this happens. Thank you for your time. And thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Lauren. Are you happy to take a few questions if there are any?
Sure, if I can answer them.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any comments, councillors, or anything you'd like to direct to Lauren? Councillor McKibben?
Hello.
Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Lauren, in your presentation, you state that there should be restrictions on subdivisions of areas greater than 20 hectares. Can you specify what you would be suggesting all those restrictions would be and why they should not apply to under 20 hectares?
I think it's more around this particular.
That's my first area. The other thing is
Okay.
I get the impression. Sorry, and in respect to any subdivision where there are going to be residences, which are obviously subject to a DAs, not to the current plan, but the subdivision will provide the allotments for residences to be built on. Are you suggesting that no houses should be built on the heritage side of the ridgeline that would look into or impact on that heritage area?
Okay, in response to the second question, it's particularly related to the Belvoir and those lots. And if you look at the map, and a lot of people build on the ridgeline, and they build on the ridgeline for the view. It's not about any other developments at all. I mean, people would like to see places below the ridgeline, but I can see them from where I am everywhere. You know, that's it. It's more about protecting the heritage conservation area. And it's quite apparent that if you were to put the building envelopes just on those lots, they are going to be down by the road. And that's going to be a problem when someone purchases it. I'm not saying it about any other developments. Maybe that would be in a new updated DCP, but currently we're working with what we have, and it's really just about protecting the heritage conservation area. And it was very dismissive to suggest that the visual impact could be a positive impact to see a roof line into that area. And it's a rural vista. And with regard to restrictions on over 20 hectares, it's more again around this particular development that we have 2 RU1, and that is used and should be retained for farming, and potentially it'll get eaten up and disappeared into smaller lots. And that's why I was asking about the gate on O'Connell Road, because it seems like it already is approved to have another house on that area because it's been reduced to 100, and it makes sense because that's the way to go if they want to divide up the land. But another rezoning and we'll see all of that land disappear. And it is meant to be mixed rural and residential.
Thank you, Lauren. Any other? Councillor McKibben? Councillor McKibben, are you done?
No, Madam Mayor, I've got no further questions. As I understand it, and the General Manager might correct me, currently the zoning in this area, as submitted by the applicant, is in accordance with the current zoning, i.e. RU1 and R5 or RU5, and that is in the LEP currently, so that an applicant, provided they comply with those requirements, and is entitled to subdivide in accordance with the particular zoning. So if that is the case, if council was to oppose this on unreasonable grounds, I would understand that the applicant could take us to court. And in that event, we would have some difficulties. So is the Oberon Valley community prepared for us to go to court on that? And prepared to indemnify us if our legal advice advises us that we would be on shaky ground? And if so, out of what assets?
I don't think that's
Um,
exactly a fair question, that we would want to see the council go to court. And we are very aware that the DCP as it stands is very out of date. And of course, the developers are going to use that and come in and pillage and plunder and do whatever they wish. But this particular development sits on the heritage conservation area. And you, within the DCP, do state that it's to be protected. So asking for the building envelopes or dwelling envelopes to be included as part of the plan is only fair? Or is every real estate agent that sells those 5 lots going to let the people know that there is considerable restrictions on where they will be able to put a dwelling? Is that a buyer beware? So I'm not asking council to go to court. I'm fully aware that developers know exactly what they can do here and will do it, and it will happen. But this is a heritage conservation area that you should be considering.
Thank you, Lauren. Councillor McCarthy?
May we call you Lauren?
You may call me Lauren.
Lauren, where did you get the figure for the trees, the cost of the trees in Warrego Lane?
It was provided at a previous O'Connell Valley Community Group. If I've got that incorrect, that was the number that was quoted. It was also put in our minutes.
Okay, thank you. And you're aware of number 7 in the report. I was a part of the Heritage Conservation Area, and we put this area up because this was all that the council would accept at the time. But in the report, it says that lock number 10 to 13 can be located on the other side of the ridge line from the Heritage Conservation Area. Doesn't that suffice enough?
Well, it's what I'm pointing out to you is that if you don't put the building envelopes in, especially 10, it sits adjacent to the Heritage Conservation Area. So, and even Dylan has put in his notes that have to be very careful placement of any dwelling on that block. Okay. And then you've got 11 and 12 who have got full view. Unless they're pushed down below the ridgeline, they will be up looking down onto the Heritage Conservation Area. So I appreciate that you put them in, but what I'm saying, if I was coming along to purchase and I purchased that land, number 10, and then I find out that the only place I can probably put my dwelling is close to the road and the rest of it's not to be used, I would consider that a problem. And okay. I probably would look to council to say, how did this happen?
Okay. And the other one, just it's not with this report, there is one building entitlement left in the Heritage Conservation Area. Would you oppose any dwelling being placed on that, even though they have an entitlement?
I don't necessarily think that that's what we're discussing here tonight, Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you. I'm completely unaware of it, so that would be hard for me to make a comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Doney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just, oh, there's the yellow square. Just the discussion of the building envelopes. I recognise the difficulty here. For just first on Councillor McKibben, nobody in this presentation, as I understand it, is denying the legal right of the zoning and the developer to do as they wish. I believe the presentation's relating to how we exercise our development control plan, and in interpreting that, what conditions we may put on an approval. So conditions don't deny an approval, correct me if I'm wrong, and also there's the issue of then enforcing a development control plan on further development applications within the rezoned area. Building envelopes. Our planner on page 90 of the report says dwelling envelopes should be added to the amended plan, demonstrating that future dwellings can be located below ridgeline in a location which ensures there is not a visual impact on the O'Connell Heritage Conservation Area. It's a statement, but it is not there as a condition of the approval. And I think it should be. And I draw your attention to...
Councillor Doney, can I interrupt you there, please? Lauren is here to give a presentation this evening on behalf of a community group. The debate that we seem to be going into now can be had when the item comes up for consideration later in the meeting.
Certainly, Madam Mayor, I was just trying to clarify some points.
If you have a question for Lauren, very happy to take it.
No, I don't think I have a question, Madam Mayor. I'm happy with that presentation.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for Lauren, councillors? Okay, Lauren, look, thank you very much for coming along, and it's not an easy thing to do a presentation. We thank you, and as you know, we'll be considering this matter later on in the meeting. So thank you
very much. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone.
Are we right, Lynette? Thank you. Okay, councillors, we move on to the meeting now. We go on to we're on page 6. We have questions from the public. Due to the current COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the newly legislated state government requirements, the October meeting will be undertaken as a virtual meeting, conducting using webinar facilities. The General Manager has requested that all questions from the public must be submitted in writing prior to 1 p.m. on Tuesday, the 20th of October 2020. Members of the public who submit a question to Council are permitted to do so, provided the following guidelines are adhered to. The person lodging the question must advise of their name and in what capacity they're acting. If the person lodging the question is acting as another person or organisation's agent, they must advise Council if they have their prior consent or authority. Questions from the public is not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It is an opportunity for the community to ask a question in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to an issue that may be causing interest or concern. Due to time constraints, a time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated. The General Manager will now read out any questions submitted at this point in time. Questions will be taken on notice and a response provided within a reasonable time frame if they cannot be answered this evening. General Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We currently have 4 questions from the public. I'll read them one at a time. The first one's from Hardy Droham. Madam Mayor and councillors, residents asked in 2018 if council could reinstate the Christmas decorations leading to the grotto event in 2019, which is now cancelled. Christmas lights and decorations are all COVID free. Having done the preparations and purchases of lights and infrastructure last year, many residents would welcome sharing the Christmas spirit, especially after a tumultuous year. A, is it the intent of council to honour the budgeted financial contribution, making the 2020 Christmas decorations even bigger and better for 2020? The initial request for the decorations, was for decorations. B, are councillors comfortable to leave the allocated funds to community groups as per today's agenda item 1303 to a single person without proper process in place to ensure transparency? After all, the council is handing out ratepayer funds. C, would it not be far more equitable to allocate the full amount of $8,000 to make up for last year's shortfall, completing past promises, instead of only $3,000, seemingly short delivering past promises by the council? Residents asked for lights and decorations. Council renamed the event to the Community Christmas Grotto. In its proposed potential savings plan, changing the focus away from the original request. The wording in 1303 leaves it open to allocate less or none of the $5,000, creating a windfall saving for the council, delivering the highlighted $2,000 saving, even though it was not approved by stealth. The second part is, During September, the dirty water issue caused residents and businesses a lot of grief. Announcement by council blamed various possible reasons, but they were really not the root cause. Council's own records also tell of a dosing pump failure leading to the treatment tank and reticulated town water getting overdosed with potassium permanganate, a chemical used to control excessive manganese levels. High doses of potassium permanganate pumped excessively without control for unknown durations and unknown concentrations would have done all sorts of damage to the RWS piping system, flocculating any build-up of accumulated manganese. A, what has council done to prevent reoccurrence of these issues? B, why was there no spare pump in council store requiring a different pump to be rigged up in the panic? C, why was an 11-year-old pump not identified as being a risk? D, does the council use condition monitoring to safeguard future failures or mission critical equipment? E, is the WTP staff sufficiently with operators and engineering staff trained adequately after recent staff turnover so that such event does not happen again? F, given the real reason, as declared by council itself, was a pump failure, will the council reimburse residents and businesses for losses experienced ranging from wasted water, soil clothes, and loss of income? G, this can't be excused as an act of God. This was caused by council and action ought to be taken. Agenda item 1410 is completely inaccurate to resolve this issue without the council showing actual water quality readings and the root cause analysis. The gibberish is meaningless. Point 1, how can council state that there were pump failures leading to potassium permanganate overdosing treatment tank and town outside the wastewater, the RWS, and then state in 1410, at no time during this event was operation of the WTP an issue. 2, is potassium permanganate dosing pump not part of the WTP? 3, unless council shows actual water quality readings, the report 1410 is nothing more than a personal opinion. This is a systematic failure of council to deliver one of its most basic functions, clean drinking water. Can these records be made available to the public? Point 3 of Hardy Draham's questions is a submission in regards to open and closed council. I'll deal with that at the time prior to council going into closed session. Should you be happy with that, Madam Mayor? And 4, would GM Wallace please elaborate on the high staff turnover for those who missed it? The Director of Planning resigned, was announced today, lasting around 170 days. A, is that a record? B, what is the average tenure of staff employed since GM Wallace was appointed? C, why do councillors not address one of the obvious flaws, attracting and keeping competent staff? D, what was wrong with the selection process this time for ratepayers, having paid out hard-earned cash for advertising, selection, interviews, and medical costs?
Thank you, General Manager. I will just comment on Mr. Draheim's questions. I will personally not be responding to any further correspondence from Mr. Draheim. After years of offensive, unpleasant, vexatious and disrespectful commentary directed at me through various media platforms by Mr. Draheim, I have decided that it is time to call out this unacceptable, inappropriate and egregious behaviour. Neither will I be responding. By not calling out this behaviour, I am actually enabling it. Neither will I be responding to any correspondence from the Oberon Shire Residents and Ratepayers Association whilst Mr. Draheim is involved with the group. Comments made by Mr. Draheim in the name of the association should raise concerns with members. These comments reflect on all members, are not productive nor in keeping with the published aims of the organisation. Opinion does not equal fact, but respect does engender respect. It is interesting to note that harassment and/or bullying is unacceptable at any level. Not calling it out for what it is sets a poor example to all, especially our young people. I reiterate that this is a personal decision on my behalf and may not reflect the views of other councillors or council staff. I'll now hand over to the General Manager to respond as he sees fit to Mr. Draheim's questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just raise it. I believe point 1 and point 2 will be taken on notice. Point 3 will be discussed later. And in regard to point 4, the matters relate to individual, personal, and not relevant to anyone beyond the organisation and will not be responded to in open council. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question 2 comes from Keith Sullivan. You'll recall that for many years there have been requests made on behalf of the considerable number of Oberon residents to recommission the Christmas lights in the town centre. To my memory, there has been no lights since the big pine tree was dropped in Apex Park. In the past, response from council has been there is nothing in the budget up until last year when 10,000 was spent on the Christmas grotto. I also understand that a request for Christmas lights has been made directly to Councillor Brenda Lyon, with negative responses being given for the reasons for not conceding to the request. On this basis, I can assume that without the support of the chairman, that the support from a committee recommending Christmas lights will not be forthcoming. Could I please put a question to council, if it is not too late, as to why this council has deviated from the traditional Christmas lights and continues to refuse requests to install fairy lights over the Christmas period, particularly as Oberon is known as the king of the fairies. The cost of installation is understood not to be significant due to the low capital cost of lighting utilising solar power, which, if agreement could be reached with the shop owners, could be left all year round, providing a magical image and colour over the winter months.
Will you be taking that on notice, General Manager, or responding?
I'm happy to take that one on notice.
Thank you.
The third one's from Philip Haynes. I'm asking this question again as you did not answer it at the August 2020 meeting, claiming I did not have permission from the Oberon Shire Residents and Ratepayers Association. So this time I'm asking as a private individual, not as a representative of any association, club, political party, group, organisation, fraternity, union, ECT. Can we assume I am a ratepayer and I am a long-time resident? This is a question for the public at today's council meeting. Mayor Sajewicz, when will council enable the Zoom feature to unmute the attendee asking the question so that they can give a response and interact with councillors as was done in chambers? And no, I'm not talking about a debate. As an example, in chambers, we always had the option to clarify a question when the answer given did not answer the question. Right now, questions to council, for the most part, are a waste of time. You unmute the attendee for this purpose is what other councils are doing. At the moment, it's just too easy to fob off a question. If you asked a vendor a question about a product you'd purchased and they didn't care and just said, we've already answered your question, or I'll get back to you, how long do you think you'd be a customer? What kind of dreadful customer service is that? How long would their business last? Council provide a service, are paid by the community and do so and ought to do it to the satisfaction of the community, like other councils are doing. At the moment, Oberon Council could put a lot more focus on satisfying their community, in other words, their customers. Could you also please respond in writing to the answer to the question?
Thank you, General Manager. In fact, I did answer this question at the August Council meeting, and this is reflected in the adopted minutes of that meeting. The response has not changed, and I quote, to reiterate the preface to questions from the public states, questions from the public is not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It is an opportunity for the community to ask a question or put a point of view forward that may be causing interest or concern. That can be checked in the minutes for the August meeting. Thank you, General Manager. Thank
you, Madam Mayor. The last correspondence is from Borman and Radsip, and reference is made to DA 10 2020 36.1, being a 6-lot subdivision for 2451 O'Connell Road, O'Connell, which has been decided by councillors at the council meeting on the 20th of October 2020. Vorman and Rapsit is a consultant and applicant for Newman Pastoral Proprietary Limited, the owners of the land that report item relates to. It is requested that the following be read out to the councillors at the meeting. Council Town Planner Dylan Fennell is to be commended for preparing a well-balanced report with respect to the proposed subdivision that addresses the concerns and counters the objections raised during the public exhibition period of the development application. The recommendation that council approve the development is an appropriate response. Previous development applications to subdivide R5 zone land into 10-hectare allotments in the O'Connell area have all been approved by council with generally consistent conditions. Concerns about environmental, traffic, heritage and social impacts on the area have been consistently raised, and it is to be noted that these would be dealt with at the planning proposal stage to rezone the land in 2013. The proposal is considered to be acceptable in terms of section 4.15 of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act 1979. There are no planning grounds to refuse the development application nor add any conditions to the approval in addition to those recommended by the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, General Manager. We now move on to page 6, councillors, to confirmation of the minutes. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 15th of September 2020 be confirmed. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, and a seconder, please. Councillor Kellam. Any business arising? Any business arising, councillors? Put the recommendation that the minutes be accepted. All in favour? Carried, thank you. Item 9, 0901, mayoral minute and report. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibbons, thank you, and Councillor McKibben, thank you. Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Gibbons? You need to unmute yourself, Councillor Gibbons, please.
Yeah, happy with the report.
Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously a busy month for you and the acting mayor. I would just like to ask a couple of questions in relation to page 8. I think it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th item down. 11th of September, Tony Shepherd on the intermodal transport links across the Blue Mountains from the Central West to Western Sydney. I was just wondering if we could advise us as to what the essence of that correspondence was.
I will refer to the Deputy Mayor. Other than that, Councillor McKibben, I'll have to get a copy of that correspondence and forward it to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do you wish to respond to that, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, Madam Mayor. That was not forwarded to me. I assume the staff had dealt with that at a staff level.
Thank you. I'll forward that correspondence to you, Councillor McKibben, and to all councillors. Councillor McKibben, you're not unmuted. Councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The third last item on page 8, Fireworks Australia. I assume that's Fireworks Australia based, I think it's Lithgow or Wallerawang, is it? And they're obviously seeking some events and assistance because obviously they've had a hard time with COVID-19. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have read this one. That is correct. They are seeking assistance with people looking at them to include fireworks in any future events.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think that was That was all, Madam Mayor. And I'm pleased to second the recommendation that this mayoral minute be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. Any other comments or questions on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. And could I just thank the Deputy Mayor for acting in the role of Mayor during my absence and thank him for a job well done. Thank you, Councillor. Page 11, councillors, item 10.01, notices of motion. Design of underground power for town beautification. The motion is that Oberon Council engage a level 4 electrical designer to obtain a plan for undergrounding the power line for the purpose of town beautification at the following sites: Oberon Street, west of Dudley Street to Raleigh Street, Oberon Street, Raleigh Street to existing completed works. The mover, please, councillors. Councillor McCarthy. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Doney, thank you. Councillor McCarthy, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. We just seem to be standing on our hands with this improvement, a long-term plan. We don't seem to be moving ahead, so I've submitted this anyway, so see how we go.
Councillor Doney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just an element of costing in here, engaging a level 4 electrical designer. I support the idea, and in my review of it, I thought there was some element of reflecting costing. Do we have a opinion of costing on this from staff, Madam Mayor?
It's my understanding not as yet, but I'll defer to the General Manager here.
Madam Mayor, a costing hasn't been undertaken. There's been some quotes being obtained, but certainly costings and where council would like to move it from would certainly be subject to a further report.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would propose an amendment. The amendment would be that Oberon Council obtain quotes from electrical designers for undertaking detailed design for undergrounding power lines in the 2 areas specified in the existing motion. And a fourth, that'd be the first point. The fourth point would be that Oberon Council, on completion, if the detail, and that would obviously, if it's under a certain amount, and I would suggest $10,000, that the General Manager be authorised to proceed with 1 and 2, and that the final point would be that if the detailed design is undertaken, that Council then obtain a quote for the cost of putting this power underground and coming back to Council. I haven't expressed that absolutely correctly, but I think the gist is understood.
Right, how does that look, Sharon? Would it not be better, councillors, to have a report back to council on this?
Look, I'm happy with that, Madam Mayor. I was just thinking that if it was under a certain amount of money, then the General Manager could proceed without having to come back, so that we at least get it underway, which I think was Councillor McCarthy's.
I understand, Councillor
Point.
McCarthy. This, we also have to identify a funding source, so I think a report
Yes.
back to council would be a preferable option. Councillor McCarthy.
Madam Mayor, could we add a third dot point that the town beautification, town improvement fund be used as a source and it be limited to $10,000? Maybe that'll suffice.
Okay, so we have an amendment here that Councillor McKibben has put up. Is your amendment still stand before I call for a seconder, Councillor McKibben?
Yes.
The amendment still
So
stands?
maybe I should rephrase the amendment to yes.
Okay, if you could rephrase the amendment for Sharon, who will then bring it up on the screen, and I will then call for a seconder.
So the motion would be Oberon Council, (1), obtain quotes from appropriate level 4 electrical designers for undergrounding the power lines in (A1) Oberon Street west of Dudley Street to Raleigh Street, and 2 Oberon Street, Raleigh Street to existing completed works. Back to the margin, and if such quote is and if the best quote obtained is under $10,000, and the general manager can obtain funds from the Streetscape Working Group or such other source, then a designer be engaged to undertake that work. New paragraph was probably 4. That on completion of the design work, a costing be obtained by the general manager for undertaking the actual works of undergrounding the power at the above 2 locations.
Can I just say that the Town Beautification Working Party does not have any funds at its disposal?
Yeah. Yes, I thought that might be the case. So,
Madam Mayor, if we can just step
Yep.
in. The only possible option I would suspect, given that, would be potentially the town beautification money from the existing TI fund or from TI unallocated. It will be a council's discretion to make their option known.
I would suggest the TI unallocated then, Madam Mayor.
Slot that in, please, Sharon, rather than the Town Beautification Fund. If we could put that on the screen when you're ready.
Could I suggest in 2, Madam Mayor, if the best quote obtained is under $10,000,
Mhm.
okay, 10,000,
Yeah.
then the general manager is directed to obtain funds from the Town Improvement Fund and allocated for the design, and then the designer be appointed to undertake the work.
You happy with that, how that reads, councillor?
I think then the general manager is directed to obtain funds from the Town Improvement Fund unallocated. And the designer be appointed to undertake the work. Will be the designer, I'm assuming, the one that was the best quote. Or maybe we might make it the best quote, Madam, if the
Where do you want to put the best quote, councillor?
I'm just thinking the best quote, because not the best quote is not always the
That's right.
If the
most suitable.
Most appropriate, most suitable quote obtained. if the most suitable quote obtained is under instead of best.
If the most suitable quote obtained is under $10,000, then the general manager, and I can't read
Is
the rest.
entitled to is entitled to source or utilize. The general manager can utilize, is directed to utilize funds from the town improvement fund. Yeah.
Can I suggest, Madam Mayor, be delegated to you?
The general manager be delegated.
To use, yes.
Okay, you happy with that, Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Madam. I think in 3, if the detailed design is obtained, then the general manager obtain a cost for each of the areas in obtain a cost for 1A and 1B.
So
Each of 1A and 1B.
Each of the areas identified would cover that?
Yes, yeah, that's fine, for each of the areas identified. Because maybe we determined to go ahead with one, but not the other.
Okay, councillors, you can read Councillor McKibben's amendment there. He has moved that. I would now need a seconder for this to proceed on for discussion, councillors, please. Sorry, I can't, you have to wait till I can see the screen. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Callum. Okay, so the amendment sits there. Is there any discussion on the amendment, councillors? Councillor McCallum, Councillor Callum, do you wish to talk to this?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy with the way that's now been framed. It's clear and gives proper delegation of authority to make it happen.
Okay, any other comments on this one, on the amendment, councillors? If not, I'm going to put the amendment as was on the screen. All in favour of the amendment? All in favour, it carried unanimously. The amendment now becomes the motion. All in favour of the motion? Thank you, councillors. The motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Page 12, councillor and delegates reports, item 1101, Central New South Wales Joint Organisation Board meeting, August 2020. The recommendation is that the report item is received and noted. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Doney, thank you, and Councillor Kellam, thank you. Councillor Doney, do you wish to speak to the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, certainly some interesting information in there. I was just looking with particular interest in the area of water, and I note that the major projects, the Wyangla Dam wall raising. I'm just asking if you have, and I've read your notes here, the applicability of this to Oberon. Do you have a comment to make as what is a direct, any direct issues that arise out of this affecting us? I was looking for Duck Malloy. I couldn't see anything there.
The only direct reference to Oberon would be the Macquarie system report.
Yeah.
Other than that, no. But I can assure you that Oberon's water issues, our dam levels, have been taken up by the JO, and we have had a meeting or two to get our case put on the matrix and in front of the minister. But in this actual report, it was more of a regional report, and the only reference really is the Macquarie system.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy with the report.
Thank you. Councillor Kellam?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only question I have is that it talks about a draft regional leadership executive and an attached draft report from that organisation in second paragraph on page 15. And
Yep.
I don't seem to have it.
No, that was a slideshow. I'm uncertain as to whether that actually came to council in my absence or not. And if it hasn't, I can certainly get a copy of that and forward that to you.
I would be interested, Madam Mayor.
I will forward it to all councillors. Thank you. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried, thank you. We're on now on page 26, committee reports, item 1201, Community Services Committee Extraordinary Meeting. The recommendation is that the Oberon Christmas Grotto be cancelled for 2020 and ideas be taken to the November Community Services Committee meeting for alternative entertainment and decorations. Do I have a mover, please, councillors? Councillor Kellam, thank you. A seconder? Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Do you wish to speak to this, Councillor Kellam?
Yes, Madam Mayor. That meeting did cancel the Christmas Grotto because on balance it was recognised that the number of people who attended last year, if that was repeated, it would be quite difficult to maintain appropriate COVID measures. And we don't know what the COVID measures are going to be in December. So you've got to take these things early, take the decisions early so that you can give certainty for sponsors. And the community service meeting then decided that we needed to source ideas and come back and make that decision at the November meeting, which I think is a sensible and appropriate way to go about business.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
The November meeting gives the people to have input, so I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 29, item 1202, CTA Audit Risk and Improvement Committee. The recommendation is that report item 1202 be received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Kellam and Councillor McKibben, thank you. Wish to speak to this item, Councillor Kellam?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The Audit Risk and Improvement Committee is the joint one, as you know, with Lithgow. And it has been fairly successful in what it's been doing. We have some new members who have added some impetus to the processes that are taking place. And the meeting itself was held by Zoom, of course, and we had a reasonable outcome. We put forward our policies for procurement, contract and project management as covering off on many of the issues that were raised in the Centium report, and that was agreed. And also we discussed the fact that members of councillors and members of the staff would be undertaking enterprise risk management training with statewide risk management in this month, and that occurred last week for both councillors and members of staff.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKibben.
No, Madam Mayor, I think the report's very detailed, speaks for itself. And yes, it's very interesting reading, and I commend the members of the committee.
Thank you. I will just add that the course that Councillor Cullen would just alluded to was held earlier, and it was quite a valuable course, and it will be ongoing. So that was just stage one. I found it very interesting and extremely informative, and made me think about things I may not have thought about previously. So well worth taking part in that. I'm going to put the recommendation. Councillors, all in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 37, councillors, item 1203, Oberon Youth Council. The recommendation is that council receive report item 1203 for information. A mover, please. Councillor McKibben, and a seconder, please. Councillor Kellam, thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the report, sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the report speaks for itself with a number of items discussed and resolved. So I think it's moving along as it should do.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kellam.
And nothing further to add, except I'm very impressed with the youth council and how they've kept going during the COVID period.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 42, councillors, item 1204, Local Emergency Management Committee. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting held on the 10th of August 2020 be received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, and a seconder, please. Councillor Kellam. Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, an interesting report, noting that obviously the effectiveness of a lot of the members of this group it may have been impacted somewhat by the closure of offices due to COVID-19, etc., and that's noted by a number of the attendees. But at least the committee continues to move ahead, and a very necessary committee.
Thank you. Councillor Kellam, anything to add?
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 46, councillors, item 1205, Oberon Sports Facilities Committee. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Oberon Sports Facilities Committee held on the 20th November 2000 and should that be 20, are received as information.
Sorry, through the chair. I've just noticed a typo in that instance, and it should be the 12th of August 2020, as the report relates, Madam Mayor. Apologies for that.
Recommendation now reads that the minutes of the Oberon Sports Facility Committee held on the 20th of August 2020 are received as information. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor McKibben. Do I have a seconder, councillors? Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Councillor McKibben, wish to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's pleasing to see that there are a number of attendees at this sports committee meeting, and that the committee seems to be moving ahead with a number of recommendations and comments that were discussed at the meeting. So it seems that this committee has been somewhat reinvigorated. So I think we'd all be happy with that.
Thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just to the director, there was no push from the Ian Christie Johnson for lighting over at the rugby league ground.
Yeah, through the chair, there has been some previous discussion about lighting. However, nothing further has been raised at this stage. I think given the some discussions in relation to the future of the sporting ground, in essence. So nothing at this stage, Councillor McCarthy.
Just a concern that couldn't these lights be, if requested, couldn't be relocated if something changes?
Through the chair, again, look, I'd have to take that on notice, Councillor McCarthy, and yeah, have further discussion. But I think that it would take some erecting of the infrastructure that was originally proposed. But yeah, they probably could be shifted. So I'll take that on notice and come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 50, councillors. Reports for decision. Item 1301, review of Uniform Policy 2107. The recommendation is that council endorse the Uniform Policy 2107 as presented. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Kellam, thank you. Do you wish to speak to this?
Sorry,
Councillor?
Madam Mayor. Yes, I actually proposing an alternate recommendation, and it is as follows. Council endorse the Uniform Policy 2107 as presented, subject to a change to item 4, embroidery, on page 3 of that proposed policy, to replace Human Resources Coordinator with Human Resources Manager.
Councillor McKibben, the motion has been proposed and seconded, so I think it would need to be an amendment now.
I
Rather
can't
than-
propose an amendment, so I'd ask someone else to.
Any response here, councillors?
Madam Mayor, this is a minor amendment in one paragraph of with one word. Do we need to go through that full process? We can adjust that word and still endorse the policy.
Okay,
Through the chair, more than happy to do that. If the council is happy for us just to amend that word.
so Councillor McKibben, can you just repeat?
I'm happy, Madam
word.
Mayor.
Yep, you're happy, okay. Could you point out again to me, please, where you want
Yes,
about embroidery, you said?
it's page 53 of the council papers, but it's page 3 of the policy.
Yeah,
The
got
top
it.
of the page, heading 4, embroidery.
Yep.
If you go to the second paragraph, second line, it says Human Resources Coordinator. It should be the Human Resources Manager.
Councillor Kellam, you've got no objection to that, I understand.
No, I have no objection.
Okay, councillors. Is there any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put the recommendation with that change. All in favour? Carried, thank you. Page 59, councillors. Item 1302, development application 102020.36.1, 6-lot subdivision, 5 additional allotments. There is a recommendation in 2 parts, councillors, that council approve development application 102020.36.1 for the 6-lot subdivision, 5 additional allotments bracketed at lot 401 in DP 1263800, being known as 12451 O'Connell Road, O'Connell, in accordance with section 4.16 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979, and conditions contained within this report for the following reasons. All proposed allotments are of the minimum size for dwelling permissibility of 10 hectares R5 zone and 100 hectares R1 zone. All relevant objectives and controls within the Oberon Local Environmental Plan 2013 and the Oberon Development Control Plan 2001 are met by the proposal. The development is considered not to unreasonably impact flora and fauna in relation to the Biodiversity Conservation Act 2017 and the State Environmental Planning Policy (Koala Habitat Protection) 2019. Council's Technical Services Department and Heritage Advisor are satisfied with the subdivision layout. Overall, the subdivision is considered to be designed appropriately in regard to its social, environmental and economic impacts on the locality. Point 2, a division would be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Do I have a mover of those recommendations, please? Councillor McCarthy.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move that with an additional dot point that we request building envelopes for lots 10 to 13. So I don't know whether I get a seconder for that. So that's a 6 dot point requesting building envelopes for lot 10 to 13.
10 to 13.
Yes.
Do I have a seconder with that additional dot point, councillors? Councillor Callum, thank you. Councillor McCarthy, do you wish to speak to this?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, just before we go into this, that is a condition rather than a reason, and it needs to be a dot point 3. A condition 3 rather than a dot point. Now, what I'm suggesting is that becomes condition 2.
2, yep.
And the division be the final condition on the development. As council may request further conditions to be added, that may change, but the division should be the last.
Yep, okay. Yep, get that. Thank you. Thank you, General Manager. Councillor McCarthy.
So now we've got number 1 is the 5 existing dot points, is that right?
5, yes.
Number 2 will be request for building envelopes for lots 10 and 13.
Yeah.
And then the division, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. I'm happy with that, Madam Mayor. One of my major concerns is expressed by the lady that people can buy these lots and then they understand that they can't impact on the HCA and and the ridge line. So if that was in there, they know that when they purchase these lots, that this is a condition. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kellam.
I agree with Councillor McCarthy. I think it's important that we do have proposed sorry. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councillor McCarthy. I think it's important that the lots have a proposed building site or a building envelope so that people are aware of the effect of the heritage area on their ability to build.
Good, thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I support the resolution and I support the proposed change proposed by Councillor McCarthy and seconded by Deputy Mayor Kellam. However, I think that the proposed change, we can't just say that lots 10 to 13 include building envelopes. I think what is proposed is that appropriate building envelopes that seek to protect the heritage nature of the village or something a bit more specific. And who's going to determine those building envelopes? Are we asking the developer to put the building envelopes in, or are we asking council and the development to come to an agreement as to what those building envelopes should be that are put in the approval? I think it needs to be a bit more definitive than what has actually been currently suggested. Because as I understand it, obviously the O'Connell Valley Group has suggested building envelopes that are away from the ridge line and lower down towards, not on the ridge line. So if we're going to do those building envelopes, that we're actually putting into this suggested change.
If I may,
can I take some advice from the General Manager, please, on this wording?
Madam Mayor, this is where your dot points do come in quite handy, and a provision of an additional dot point to say to protect the ongoing amenity of the O'Connell urban conservation area may be as simple as it is to add a dot point to those reasons if council would like to. It doesn't need an additional condition to highlight why, just the reasons behind it, and that will be put into an approval document.
So you're saying it's not necessary to delineate specifically building envelopes on those specific blocks. You're saying an overall statement would cover that? Is that what you're saying, General Manager?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I think you've misunderstood. What I'm suggesting is that if council were to resolve to accept the condition as it sits now,
Mm.
a simple further dot point
In
within
addition to the, okay, yep.
in condition 1,
Mm.
saying something along the lines to protect the amenity of the urban conservation area. That will be the reason behind the condition being added.
Okay,
So you don't need to justify the reason as Councillor McKibben has indicated, when you can use reasons to do that for you. So to be simply, if that condition was to be applied, I would recommend a further dot point indicating that to protect the amenity of the O'Connell Urban Conservation Area as the justification and the reasoning behind the condition.
thank you. Have you got any objection to that, Councillor McCarthy?
Yeah.
Councillor McCarthy?
No,
No.
Madam.
Councillor Kellam? You happy with that suggestion from the General Manager?
I'm happy with that suggestion. Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor McKibben, that satisfies your concerns?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I believe it does.
Councillor Doney? Councillor Doney, you're muted.
Just still try here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On the amendment, I draw council's attention to page 90 of the report. Point number 2. And I do commend the a town planner, I'm not sure of the correct title, for putting in some work. I don't always agree with all of his conclusions, but I think it's a much more comprehensive report than we've had in the past. But he notes there, dwelling envelopes should be added to the amended plan, demonstrating that future dwellings can be located below ridge line in a location, etc. That is not a visual impact on the O'Connell Heritage Conservation Area. So we already have a guideline in our recommendation from our town planner to meet this additional point 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I draw council's attention to the importance of that, because if they go to the Warrego Lane subdivision, where it too bordered the Heritage Conservation Area, and the key aspect of the Heritage Conservation Area is its scenic and cultural heritage, there is a house that has been built, and I don't know how it happened, smack on the top of the ridgeline, where in fact the whole concept of the conservation area was that that was not to occur. So we need to guard against this, that unless we do protect it, the same thing could happen again. I would then also like to foreshadow a further amendment. I'm not sure where we're up to with that.
We don't have an amendment at the moment, Councillor. We have an alternate recommendation.
An alternate recommendation. Then
You wish to add
a mover and a
something?
seconder on that?
Yeah, we did. Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Kellam.
So I would like to just suggest a further amendment then, Madam Mayor.
Okay, you don't want, can you tell me what it is, Councillor, please?
Yes, certainly, ma'am. Yeah, I'm happy to speak to it. I would like an additional point requesting the development of a tree plan for the subdivision. And I would like it to have a number of elements. The first one would be that it is a Tier 1 koala habitat, and the recommendation under Tier 1 on page 68, there is the possible recommendation that the developer or purchasers of the blocks just be encouraged. It's not compulsory. Encouraged to undertake strategic plantings of koala corridor type trees, and I'd also like a tree plan developed for Box Flat Road. So the road that leads. So I'm looking for a further dot point after the building envelopes one, and that is that we ask for a tree plan development focusing on recommendations for koala-friendly species and a tree plan for Box Flat Road in consultation with council.
I can see the sense in the tree plan for Box Flat Road. I don't know that you could enforce a recommended tree planting for each property. A recommended
I did not suggest that, Madam Mayor. I said just a direction encouraging people to do so.
Is that enforceable through the General Manager as a condition of consent?
A condition encouraging people to do it is not a condition.
No.
Okay, all right.
But I see the value in the roadside planting as a condition.
That could even bring that in. You could actually, part of the roadside plantings could actually be koala, friendly trees, whatever the correct term is. So that's what I'm looking for, Madam Mayor. An additional point relating to a tree plan along Box Flat Road, if that includes also koala-friendly species.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy, this is your recommendation, and Councillor Kellam, are you happy for that to be included as the third item?
I personally don't think so, Madam Mayor, in respect that I'm not against the tree planting, but I think what we've got to do is look at different aspects of trees along the road. Sometimes they might be needed to be individual, and then other times they might be in a cluster. So I support the Warrego Lane one because it's not a continuous through road, but I think to just go and plant the Warrego style on a clear road isn't suffice.
So you're not happy to support that as an additional recommendation?
No, Madam Mayor.
It would have to then be an amendment, Councillor Doney.
Yes, I'm happy for that, and I've had this conversation with Councillor McCarthy. I'm happy for that tree plan to be varied. I'm not necessarily talking about an avenue of trees like Warrego Lane, because I agree with him. It's a through road, and it's got different characteristics. But I would like to see the impetus on the developer to develop that tree plan, even in line with what Councillor McKibben's saying, clusters of trees, individual trees. That is in fact what I'm suggesting.
Any response, Councillor McCarthy? Is this an alteration, or is it going to have to be an amendment?
Oh, well, let's get a tree design from the people, and it could come back to council. How's that? If Councillor Callum's happy with that.
If this goes on as a condition of consent, though, it's not a report coming back to council, it's a condition of consent that goes with the DA.
Yeah, that's my problem of dealing with it at this level.
Yeah. Okay, so I think what we're hearing, Councillor Doney, is that you need to propose an amendment.
Okay.
So if you would like to read out your amendment to Sharon.
Yes, it would then be point 3, that in consultation with council officers, a suitable tree plan be developed for Box Flat Road. Full stop. In particular, with forgive me getting a bit convoluted, where possible, a koala-friendly habitat in mind.
If we could have the amendment up whenever you're ready, when you're ready, Sharon. We'll call for a seconder. Okay. Is that what you want to see there, Councillor Doney?
Well, general manager, sure. Yes, so that's fairly close, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Councillor Callum.
before you call for a seconder,
I haven't called for a seconder yet.
I'm getting in. This consent condition just calls for a plan to be developed, makes no mention of implementation.
Thank you. I'm happy to adjust that. Tree plan, development and implementation of a suitable tree plan, and consultation with the general manager, develop and implement a suitable tree plan.
And is that implementation at the cost of the developer?
I would believe so, yes.
If it's a condition of
That's-
consent, it would be. I would
Absolutely.
think.
And does that mean the continuous?
Because I recall our discussion about Warrego Lane and ensuring that this is what occurs.
Okay, Councillor Doney, are you happy with this, how this looks?
At this point, Madam Mayor, yes.
Just a point that I'd like to raise, Madam Mayor, if I could, and I
Yep.
apologise. Is council considering that this plan is to be developed for the entirety of Box Flat Road, or for that area of Box Flat Road where the R5 development is to go? Is it for the entirety? Just trying to get some
Yeah, no, good point.
information around that.
Well, Madam Mayor, both sides of the road are actually subject to both sides of the road, the full length of both sides of the road are actually subject to this application. One side's R5, one side and R1, and the other side's R1. Now, I say suitable tree plan. I'm not suggesting that we put an onerous burden on the developer to build a huge avenue of trees down both sides. I'm just looking for a suitable tree plan that fits in with the environment, and yes, both sides of the road are subject to this application.
Okay, can I just ask before I call for a seconder, could I ask the general manager, is this an enforceable and reasonable condition of consent?
Through the chair, any condition that council wants to put on and they consider them reasonable is a reasonable condition. My only suggestion would be that we add that the development implementation needs to be carried out prior to the issue of a subdivision certificate, because that is the trigger to to basically entrench this condition into an application.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I can,
Councillor McKibben, I haven't got a seconder yet for this amendment. I need to get one, and then I can open it up for talking, if you're fine with that.
But Councillor Kellam's already made some suggestions, and I realise that, but I'm not understanding the amendment in a number of ways. But I'm happy to wait if you want me to, Madam Mayor.
I'm happy. I need to have a seconder for this amendment. If Councillor Doney is happy, I think Councillor Kellam also indicated, and I can't see him on the screen, that he would second this amendment. with the addition he put in, he suggested. Is that correct, councillor?
That's correct, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So,
As he was a seconded to the original motion, I don't think he
oh,
can
right,
second the
okay.
amendment.
Yep, you're right. You're right, sorry.
And I would second it, but I
Yep.
can't second it because I have problems with it.
Okay. Okay, councillor, what are your problems?
Well, first of all, I agree with the general manager that we need to put a time frame on it. Does the implementation mean watering and weed control of these trees forevermore? What's the requirement for maintenance on this, or is it just the initial planting of them? Number two is, whilst I have some sympathy for the second section of this, is it in the interests of this council to be, I agree with the planting of species that are suitable for koalas in appropriate locations, but beside roads is normally not considered an appropriate location because of the likelihood that koalas will actually be hit by vehicles, which happens quite regularly. So I would be suggesting that it's not appropriate to put koala species beside the road. I think we should be encouraging plantation lots of trees. I know that we said we couldn't encourage the plantation lots as originally proposed by Councillor Doney, but I'm just not sure beside the roads is the appropriate place, because the last thing we want is koalas run over. And that has happened. That does happen in the in other areas. And also because of the distance between the roadway and the fence, it's not really always appropriate to put natives in, because experience suggests that you need 3 to 5 rows of natives to really make it tangible, you know, for natives to grow happily. Natives are not like exotics. They can't just put one here and one there and one there. They're just some observations I make before the amendment goes up for consideration.
Okay, Councillor Doney, I need to get this amendment settled.
Certainly, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have a yellow. Can I be heard?
You can, we can hear you, we
Yes,
just can't
Thank
see
you.
you.
I don't have a yellow thing. I appreciate Councillor McKibben's point. And that is a risk. One of the considerations of roadside verges, that they are one of the main areas of preservation of flora and fauna in our district these days, because of the intense farming of the paddocks. Then sometimes the only sort of natural environment left is on the road verge. I guess we might put up a koala sign or something, could do it. Yeah, I you know, 3 to 5, there's lots of native trees in smaller numbers along the side of our roads. So I appreciate the points, but I still think they don't preclude this being a worthwhile concept.
So it stands as it is, Councillor Doney?
I'm just wondering about his time frame. I appreciate very much Councillor McKibben's issue. I'm happy to take some advice on how we can put this in a manageable time frame terminology.
Okay, I need, Councillor Kellam, are you happy to second the third recommendation, the amendment as it sits at the moment? Councillor Kellam?
I think we can get around, Madam Mayor, some of the issues by perhaps using a term like planted with habitat and climate appropriate species.
You wish the koala-friendly habitat to stay there?
No, I think that makes it difficult for some people.
Yep.
But if we say climate and habitat appropriate species, that can cover all of those things. It can cover whether we put exotics, whether we put natives, what sort of natives. It gives some latitude, but also some direction for people.
So
Sure.
You're suggesting we take out to koala-friendly habitat and put in climate-appropriate species? Is that your suggestion, to be clear?
Climate and habitat appropriate species.
Climate and habitat. Are you taking out koala-friendly?
Yeah, so it's, and in particular, where possible, climate and habitat appropriate species prior to the issue of the subdivision certificate.
Are you happy with that, Councillor Donny, to get your second done?
Certainly am, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Is there further discussion on this amendment, councillors?
We just need to tidy up.
So
Just need to tidy up a few superfluous words in there.
okay, that in consultation with the General Manager, develop and implement a suitable tree plan for the area along Box Flat Road and in particular where possible. And take out in particular, I think would be the way. And where possible, climate and habitat tree species prior to the issue of a subdivision certificate. Happy with that?
Habitat appropriate.
Madam Mayor, if I could, now I'd like the opportunity just to try and get some certainly some finalisation of this. Could I suggest trees planted for the entirety of Box Flat Road, not the area along Box Flat Road, because councillors have indicated it's for both sides, so it's for the entirety of Box Flat Road. That would give both the developer and council some understanding of what was required. A question was raised by Councillor McKibben, I think, and I apologise if it wasn't, around how long is that proposed to be kept in play, or like is it forever? You can't. There is no provision to make a developer continuously do that, right? But what council could do is potentially, after this thing has been implemented, developed and implemented, that council could consider keeping a bond for a period of time to make sure that the tree plan is established, and then after a certain period of time, maybe 12 months, that bond is provided back to the owner or to the developer, and that gives some clarity and some certainly some weight to the fact that for the first 12 months, the developer would have a responsibility over making sure that the tree plan is established. And after that 12 months, the money goes back to the developer and council takes over ownership.
Is that normal practice, General Manager?
It certainly is when we come to building roads and doing that sort of thing. And this is infrastructure that we will forever have responsibility for.
Okay. Does that need to go into the recommendation, or is this just a point of clarification from yourself?
The question was asked. I'm answering the question, Madam Mayor.
Uncertainty. Okay, we have Councillor Donny and Councillor Kellam with this amendment. Is this how you guys want to see this? Councillor Donny, I need a final word here.
The comments from the General Manager take direction on that. He has a fair bit of lenience in consultation with the General Manager, develop and implement a suitable tree plan. If the General Manager feels that the appropriate way to do that is to take a bond, ask for maintenance and return the bond at the end of the process, then perhaps that is covered within that phraseology and we don't need to change it anymore.
Good. Councillor Kellam, are you happy with that?
I am, Madam Mayor.
Are there any other comments from any other councillors on this matter, on this amendment, please? Councillor Gibbons. Councillor Gibbons?
Am I on?
You are.
Oh, righto. Yeah, I just can't agree with this too well, mainly because I'm thinking of the roadway. We've sealed that road and made it wider than a normal country road. We have a number of bends there where the road touches the fence on some sides and touches the fence on the others. I like trees, but they grow bigger and they spread out, particularly the eucalyptus. I just don't know why we can't make them plant the trees in on the subdivision, just next to the fencing. I just think it's a backward step in a way. If you was there and planted right, you may get away with some of it, but you're going to have no room on some sides of your fence. It's not an avenue of trees, I know. I just think we're not thinking of the long-term situation with the road. You can't drain it because you have trees in the road, maintenance on the shoulders. I've just seen it happen. When you plant the trees small, it looks so good. Then when we see what we have with our own roads, I just think that if this development should go ahead, well, maybe they should be, there should be a screen or some trees planted within the subdivision along the boundary, or 10 metres from it or 5 metres. I'm just not in favour as it is. It's all over the place for me.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other, Councillor McCarthy?
Gibbons, I think a cluster of trees in certain spots would be far more suitable. In the recommendation, it says the entirety of Boxflat Road. How does that impact on the orchard that's down the other end? Here we are putting other trees there that might be suitable or could kill off the orchard. I don't think that's appropriate either.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just like to support Councillor Gibbons's comments and Councillor McCarthy's. I think they're both very valid points, and we need to consider them. I agree that we shouldn't be planting large eucalypt species trees on the roadside verges. I think on the landholder's side of the fence in clumps is a much more suitable result for the reasons that the other councillors have outlined, but also for safety reasons for vehicle traffic. We know what it's like to try and swerve to miss an animal, to try and, your natural instinct is to do it, even though the rules of the road say don't do it. But we all know the first instinct is to brake and swerve to miss the animal, to save the animal. So I can see issues with both, but I think we should be steering away from putting trees on roadside verges, especially all the way along that road. I think much more suitable solution is to put them in clumps in the landholder side of the fence. And just one other question. I thought the original motion was moved by Councillor McCarthy and seconded by Councillor Kellam.
It was.
Now we have an amendment moved by Councillor Doney and seconded by Councillor Kellam. I'm not sure if is that right? Are we voting on the amendment now? And can Councillor Kellam...
We're voting on the amendment. The amendment.
So Councillor Kellam can second both?
Can I take some advice on that, please? General Manager?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, in this instance, I would suspect that you would need a seconder other than Councillor Kellam.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you seconded it. You seconded it, Madam Mayor.
Me? Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I think you did actually, because when I raised the issue before, and then Councillor Doney raised it, and I think you seconded it. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty
sure. Because we had the discussion before.
I'm pretty sure that I didn't, Councillor McKibben.
Madam Mayor, I think what happened was that I said I wanted to get in before we got a seconder, and then the discussion went on, and I think you may have just assumed that I seconded it, which I didn't.
I did.
So, yeah.
Okay, I've taken the advice from the General Manager, councillors, that Councillor Kellam is unable to second the amendment. Is there a seconder, another seconder for the amendment? Now we've had all the discussion. Is there a seconder for the amendment? There's no seconder, the amendment lapses, and we go back to the original motion, councillors. Can we put the original motion back up on the screen, please, Sharon, because we're getting very lost here.
Madam Mayor, the original motion had an addition to
Additional
it.
point, yeah.
Councillor McCarthy and Councillor endorsed prior to the need for an amendment.
And
So-
that's the one I'm talking about.
Which is the reason why you didn't need a foreshadowed motion.
That's right. Could you take the screen up a bit, Sharon, just a tiny bit for a moment? Thank you. Okay, councillors, we are back to the original motion with the additional dot point, or the additional recommendation and dot point that was proposed by Councillor McCarthy and seconded by Councillor Kellam. Do we have any further discussion on the recommendation that you can see on the screen? So we do. Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Madam Mayor, just a clarification on number 4 dot point. This development's been with us for 6 months.
Yeah.
In that time, we haven't had this technical service department and heritage advisor have a look at this?
I believe that we have. It's in the report.
So why is that condition in there then? Can't it be removed?
Through the chair, just for clarification, these are reasons for the approval, not conditions of consent.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments here, councillors? Councillor Doney. Councillor Doney.
Hello. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That was my next question. These are reasons because personally, I don't agree with those dot points, and I wonder whether meeting all elements of a development control plan, which, you know, we haven't applied that to development applications for building on those blocks yet. I'm not sure about flora and fauna. We've discussed heritage and we've made an adjustment. Social, environment and economic. Do we need those statements in there, Madam Mayor, through you to the General Manager?
Through the chair, absolutely, because that's the way that you undertake an assessment under the current Environmental Planning Assessment Act provision.
Yep, I thought so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doney. Councillor Kellam.
I have one further observation to make, and that is that recently we had a discussion with an applicant for a DA down in Wiseman's Creek, and we discovered, of course, that all grassland is now considered fire prone, and that's not mentioned in this DA and the report.
I think it is mentioned within the report because I questioned this myself. I think the fire plan is in keeping with the latest RFS requirements. If you could confirm, General Manager.
Through the chair, that's correct. But what you'll also note is that these are substantially large allotments where manicured grasses could be implemented to minimise bushfire issues that aren't necessarily consistent with the development that's been raised.
Madam Mayor, I base my comment on page 73, paragraph 1.9, which says no proposed allotments are bushfire prone. And certainly at the moment, they are bushfire prone because they're grassland.
To the General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through the chair, yes, that's correct. They're not bushfire prone, but they are subject to the provisions of Plan for Bushfire Protection in accordance with the new amendments in 2020. So once again, grassland is one of those categories that is considered bushfire prone, and appropriate mechanisms need to be put in place should a development application be lodged that each of our assessment will need to consider.
Thank you. Any other comments here, councillors, before I put the recommendation as it sits? Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that the amendment proposed by Councillor Doney was not seconded. However, I personally don't have a problem with a tree policy as long as it's cognizant of the issues that Councillor Gibbons and McKechnie and McCarthy raised. And the General Manager be delegated to look at that, and that the suggestion by the General Manager that a bond be put in place. I suggest for 2 years for maintenance of the trees. I thought was a suitable, appropriate suggestion. I suppose I would be suggesting that in appropriate places, similar to what we've requested, well, what we're looking at Warrego Lane, that that trees be put in. And I take Councillor McKechnie's point, maybe not natives, and they also put in, take cognizance of Councillor Gibbons' points of not near any drainage areas, and not where the width of the distant the verge between the road edge and the fence is not sufficient to have such trees. But I'm not sure of the appetite for councillors for such an amendment at this stage. Maybe I should ask back to Councillor Doney whether he would think that was appropriate. Through you, Madam Mayor.
I'm wondering if it's my place to comment on it, Madam Mayor. I mean, obviously I support the essence of what Councillor McKibben's saying. I thought we were putting a fair bit of flexibility into that. We, you know, we're not talking about an avenue, and we're talking about a range of things. And I think getting developers to put into tree plans is an improvement in our planning process.
Can I say that the amendment has been defeated,
Yeah.
and another amendment cannot be brought of the same theme? Is that's what you're getting? Is that's where we're going here?
Well,
reply, Councillor McCarthy, and then I'm going to put this to the vote.
Just a comment, Madam Mayor. You look at the development in Warrego Lane, and you look outside the council verge into the yards, look at the tree planting that's taken place on those allotments by the residents. It's phenomenal. And I don't think we have to really concern ourselves too much, because these people are planting the trees that they want in their yard, and the amount of trees that are in these yards are phenomenal down there in the Warrego Lane. And they're not in the council verge. Anyway, that's just a comment.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. I'm now going to put the recommendation, councillors. I will ask Sharon once again to put it up on the screen so we're all clear on what we're voting on after prolonged discussion. Okay, councillors, I'm going to now put that recommendation as you read it. All in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. Against? Councillor Doney. The recommendation's carried, councillors. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Doney.
just with your forbearance, I just want it clearly understood that my vote against this is of course registered. It's not against the subdivision because there's no legal basis to vote against it, but I just feel my vote is against our application of our DCP plan, and I think we can continue to do better. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Donny. Okay, councillors, we're now up to page 95, item 1303, funding assistance for Christmas themed activities. The recommendation is that council allocate $5,000 from the 2020-21 Oberon Christmas celebrations budget to the funding assistance for Christmas themed activities project. Do I have a mover for this, councillors, please? No mover. Councillor Kellam, thank you. And Councillor Donny, thank you. Councillor Kellam, do you wish to speak to this recommendation?
Yes, Madam Mayor. This was a decision of the Community Services meeting and originated there and been put together by the Community Services Director. It is a reasonable way of doing business. It is actually no different from in essence, from our 355 committees and the 356 donations. And it allows for the creativity of our citizens to get some assistance to decorate our streets. And I think it's a reasonable way of doing business. It's not like the money is being handed out with no controls. Like all money we hand out to people, we require it to be acquitted in some way. And I think we'll probably have a pretty good response to this, and it'll be a pretty decent way of satisfying our requirements for Christmas decorations in town.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Donny, do you wish to speak to this?
Surely all I can say is bar humbug, Madam Mayor, for those who are familiar with various pieces of Christmas literature. So bar humbug, I thoroughly support it.
Thank you. Any other comments on it, councillors, on this item? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried. Councillor McKibben, carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 96, councillors, item 1304. Participate in a regional contract for the supply and delivery of bitumen emulsion. The recommendation is that council agree to participate in a regional contract for the supply and delivery of bitumen emulsion and provide Central New South Wales joint organisation with advice accordingly. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben and Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Wish to speak to this, Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The paper speaks for itself. Obviously, we obtain cost advantages in participating in this, significant cost savings, and we are on the table. We're obviously a relatively big user of bitumen, so I'd commend this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
Participate.
Thank you.
Straightforward, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Other comments, councillors? Any questions? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 99, item 1305, 2019-20 unaudited financial statements. There's a recommendation in two parts, councillors, that council accept the 2019-20 unaudited financial statements in accordance with section 413(3). The annual financial report is in accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 as amended, and the regulations made thereunder. The Australian Accounting Standards and Professional Pronouncements and the Local Government Code of Accounting Practice and Financial Reporting presents fairly the Council's operating result and financial position for the year, and accords with Council's accounting and other records, and Council is not aware of any matter that would render this report false or misleading in any way. Part 2, delegate the Mayor, Deputy Mayor, General Manager and the Corporate Services Director to sign the 2019-20 unaudited financial statements. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder, councillors? Councillor Kellam, thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting to see the effects that the changes in accounting standards have had, especially in that grants not utilised are obviously treated differently and can't be treated as they have been previously in materials and contracts, and similarly that our lease liabilities are treated separately under the new accounting standards. So it does make some difference to our accounts. The interesting fact is that I seem to recall that we were anticipating a loss this year, but we've actually made a slight profit rather than a loss, so that's good, albeit that it is a profit. Obviously, our cash and investments standing at 17.6 million is an increase on last year, so that's good from an operating perspective and from our asset perspective. So I would move the two recommendations proposed for this item, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Keller?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I endorse wholeheartedly Councillor McKibben's words, and I look forward to seeing the audited result in due course.
Thank you, Councillor.
Nothing further.
Any other comments on this one, councillors? Any questions? Councillor Doney? Councillor Doney, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just unmuting myself. Just a couple of quick questions, if I may. In the attachments on page 85, 84 actually, 84.
Yep.
I'm just looking at the year-to-year change in employee leave entitlements and workers' compensation insurance. Am I reading that those two employee leave entitlements went from -32 to +68, and compensation insurance went from 172 to 233,000? Is that correct? Am I reading that correctly?
Through the director.
Through the chair. Yes, Councillor Doney, the leave entitlements did increase this financial year. I think we need to remember that for almost most of the second half of the financial year, we were in COVID situation and not many staff took leave at that point in time. So there was a substantial increase in entitlements. And the workers' compensation insurance did increase as expected. This is part of ongoing claims left over from the last few years, and it will level out in the next couple of years.
Okay. And also, there's quite a bit of conversation elsewhere in the reports talking about water and sewerage. And 158, 159 of your attachment. And I just would seek clarity because I think it bears on other considerations we're making, that the in the water account there is a, am I reading that right, as a $6.2 million reserve, and in the sewage account a $7.4 million reserve?
Yes, that is correct.
And also, just not in these reports, but can staff refresh my memory of the increases in the water and the sewage account in recent years? Did we have a 3-year period where we went 10% per year? Or what actually was that rate of increase over a period of time? Aside from our special rate variation, there was a big jump in our water charges.
Prior to the special rate variation, Council did allocate a 10% increase over 2 years, but that was quite some time ago, approximately 5 years ago, before the special rate variation. Since then, it has been CPI.
But only, I guess we've got a different perspective over 5 years. 5 years ago, that was a 20% increase over 2 years.
That is correct.
Also.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Are there other comments, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation in two parts. All in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Page 102, item 1306, New South Wales Safer Roads Program 2020-21, Safety Barrier Tender T2020/9. The recommendation is that council nominate the open tendering method as prescribed in accordance with clause 166A of the Local Government Regulation 2005 for the purchase and installation of new safety barrier at several locations on the Abercrombie Road. T2018/5. I will just note, councillors, that in the comment in the second paragraph down, that should read 350,000, not 3,500,000. Can I have someone to move the recommendation, please? Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Kellam, thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
Pretty happy with the reports, and we're back to 350,000, not the 3 million. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kellam.
Very straightforward. I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Comments, councillors? Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of questions I may. Obviously, we use a lot of guardrail material in the works we do. Why aren't we, does the JO not purchase guardrail in bulk or have a contract for it so that we would get the benefit of that? Because it would have, as with the bitumen we've considered a few minutes ago, I would have thought this would be a major expense for all councils, the material side of it.
To the director, please.
Yeah, through the chair, certainly don't disagree with your statement there, Councillor McKibben, but the JO does not presently have a guardrail tendering or contract. I would imagine a lot of councils do use guardrail. There are different types of guardrail, certainly that are probably utilised by the varying councils. Specific to our needs, and this particular one in this instance is a one-off expenditure that certainly exceeds. We're expected to see the $250,000 mark. Again, bounded by our policy, we are limited at 150. So, not normally would we in any one financial year probably exceed $150,000 in any case. Again, but something that I could raise from a JO perspective in terms of tendering opportunities for guardrail into the future.
Thank you, Technical Service Director. I would encourage that, because I would have thought that there would have, especially if they can standardise the guardrail types, etc., that there would be benefits in the JO doing something in this regard. That completes my comment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
Madam Mayor, from our past experience, when council was doing the work, we were getting twice as much rail done by suitable qualified contractors, because his purchase power was that much greater than council's, because he was doing the work all the time. So that might allay some of the fears that Councillor McKibben has. But that's how it come about, that the purchase power from this one of the contractors we engaged, we were doing twice as much as the work that council was able to undertake.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Any other comments on this one, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We have a late report, councillor. Councillors, item 1307. If you all have your late reports. Bushfire Community Recovery and Resilience Fund Phase 2 funding allocation. There's a recommendation there that council allocate $187,500, which is 75% of the Stream 1 funding, to the Oberon Mountain Bike Trail project, which is a council-led tourism-based project. 2, that council allocate the required 62,500, which is 25% of Stream 1 funding, to small-scale community projects from the attached list. 3, that staff apply for Stream 2. Can I have someone to move that recommendation, please? Councillor McKibben, thank you. Is there a seconder, please? Councillor Kellam. Okay, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Noting the timeframes we have to work within in relation to this funding and the suggested proposed list, which relates to that, is the second part of the recommendation. I think what is proposed is aptly reasonable, noting that the effect that basically the drought and bushfires and COVID-19 have had on our tourism industry, and noting also that mountain bike tracks have been a great enticement for people to come and use them, and that we obviously in Oberon, if there's one thing we have, it is the terrain for good mountain bike tracks. So I would commend this recommendation. I think in the circumstances, what is proposed is aptly reasonable.
Thank you. Can I just go to the General Manager before I go to Councillor Kellam? With the chart that's on page 6 of listed projects, has there been any update to that? I know that a lot of projects have been coming in because of the short time frame late.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason why this is a late report is for exactly that reason. There was the funding opportunities only just arose, and we need to have an allocation provided. We've got one additional application, and that is from the Christian Life Centre, and that's for an after-school youth program.
Is there a value on that, General Manager?
At this point in time, it's valued at $20,000.
And is it shovel ready? Is it project ready?
Given what it is, it would be determined that it would be shovel ready, subject to the purchase of a number of things.
Okay. Councillor Kellam, would you want to comment on this item before I throw it out, throw it open?
Only to the extent that I endorse the mountain bike aspect of it, and I can see we've got some little bit of work to do this evening on allocating the remaining 62,500.
Right. Okay. I've gone through this list, and it's obvious that with the money available for the community grants that they all can't be satisfied. My thought was, and I'm throwing it out there for discussion, that with phase 2 coming up and timeline November for the projects to be submitted, and given that they are for projects over $20,000, it would be my suggestion that any project in this list over $20,000 be considered in the phase 2 section of this grant. I think we should be going with shovel-ready projects because of the time frame. But I'm happy to throw this out there for discussion, councillors. Does anybody have a view on this? Councillor Gibbons.
Am I on air?
Yep, you are, councillor.
Yeah, talking about shovel-ready projects and the phase 2 coming up, would that be the opportunity again for the acoustics at the Black Springs Hall? This one seemed too small for that, even though we were going to get something up for heating in the hall. You know, the shovel-ready, that particular project, and we may never get the grant for it. I think it should be included in phase 2.
Okay. Is it listed here? Thank you, councillor. Any other comments, councillors? Councillor Kellam.
And Mayor, I think your suggestion makes it much simpler. I haven't had a chance to do the arithmetic, but I think that deferring the anything 20,000 and over to to the second stream is probably makes it reasonably straightforward for that list there. Do we have a spreadsheet anywhere in operation at the moment?
What's the total, Mark? With those two eliminated.
Take out the ones that aren't shovel ready or TBC, and we take out the couple of 20 or three, I think, three that are over 20,000.
Does the Director of Corporate Services have a spreadsheet with all these in it so that easily added up?
Through the chair, no, there is no spreadsheet. This was put through by the grants officer, but I'm just quickly doing calculation now.
Could I suggest that the Burriga community has also suggested a notice board at the end of the park, near the car park?
Through the chair, there's already a notice board available for at the end of the car park.
Right.
Through the chair, I've just done some calculations, and if you did exactly what you've requested, there is $75,045 within those project cost estimates. Given that the resurfacing of one netball court at $10,000 is not project ready, if you minus that, it leaves you with $65,045, which is $2,000 over the minimum.
And that also excludes the two TBCs, yes?
Yes, it does. So that doesn't preclude them from doing that TBC.
Through you, Madam Mayor, could I?
General Manager.
Sorry, it doesn't preclude the TBCs being included in stage 2. And at this point in time, we're looking for a number of applications, the smaller ones, to be included in that second phase.
Yep.
Councillor McKibben.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I could ask the General Manager whether he got a report on the Burriga Hall today.
I can confirm that I did not.
Right. Because I'm not sure whether that was in relation to the original amount allocated for the Burriga Hall. There was meant to be a report provided to indicate where it was up to.
But once again, stage 2 is available.
It closes
But it may not be over 20,000.
That doesn't matter.
Could you explain that, please? Because in the criteria, the second phase are 20,000 to a much larger amount. Can you group them together?
It doesn't preclude an organisation coming with a number of things in the one location to get it over that fund.
Okay, yep. Okay, councillors. Councillor Donny.
There we go. It's exactly the same question, except change the word from Burriga to O'Connell. Did you get a late report on the outdoor cinema event proposal today? Any info? Okay, thank you.
Nothing's come to me, no. I will say though, is our grants officer is currently on leave, but that they should filter through to the right person, and it hasn't come through us.
Okay.
Okay, councillors, is there any other input here? So, Councillor McCarthy.
How much are we over budget at the moment?
62,500.
It's approximately $2,000,
$1,000.
which could probably be handled if council were of mind to accept those.
62,500 is the minimum spend on community grants. There is no upper limit. Okay, councillors. I will put a recommendation for item 2. Item two, that we allocate funding to projects under $20,000 that are shovel ready as per the list compiled by the grants officer. If I can get a seconder for that. Councillor McKibben, you seconding that or wish to speak?
I'm prepared to second it. The only suggestion is that I think we need to say shovel ready and that have a cost estimate beside them.
Well, that to me means shovel ready with the cost estimate.
Okay, well, if on that basis, I'm prepared to second.
Thank you very much. So I've got a mover and a seconder for item two. Is there any further discussion on that, councillors? Councillor, no? Councillor Kellam, you wish to speak?
Yes, I do. Does that then naturally change the allocation of 187,500 to 185,500 in item one?
Through the General Manager, it would. Sorry, can you unmute?
Yes, it would.
185,000. What was the other? What was the figure, councillor? I haven't got a calculator.
I think we're over budgeted by 2,000, which means that figure should be
185,500. Okay, so Councillor McKibben and Councillor Kellam, this was your recommendation. So how it will read now is that council allocate $185,500, which is 75%, would have to say approximately, wouldn't it, of the Stream 1 funding?
Madam Mayor, may I yes, we just leave the 75% out, 185,500 Stream 1 funding.
Yep, that's
and
fine.
then allocate whatever the figure is,
$65,045, was that it?
Yeah, from Stream 1 funding. Again, get rid of the which is 25%.
Take out the which is 25%. You happy with that, Sharon? If you've got that? Can we see that up on the screen before we put it to the vote, please?
Madam Mayor, through the chair, the numbers will be 84,955.
184,000, you mean?
Yep, 955 and 65,045. That would make up the
total amount.
total, yes.
Okay, so this is an amendment that was moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McKibben. You happy with that, Councillor McKibben, the way that looks, the amendment? Confirm?
I confirm that it's fine, Madam Mayor. My only question is, where did we get the costing for the mountain bike trail project, and are we certain that we can do it for this smaller amount?
Through the General Manager.
Through the chair, I am sure that given the very small,
Variant.
it wouldn't change the project substantially.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy with the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. I'm going to put the amendment, councillors, all in favour. That's carried unanimously. The amendment now becomes the motion. All in favour of the motion in three parts. Thank you, councillors. It's carried unanimously. Back to the business paper. Reports for information 104. Report item 1401, monthly activity report, General Manager. I will just say, councillors, that after we've dealt with this report, we will be taking a 5-minute break. So the recommendation here is that the report item 1401 is received as information. Can I have someone to move that way, please? Councillor Gibbons, thank you. And Councillor Callum, thank you. Councillor Gibbons, you wish to speak to this? We can hear you, Councillor Gibbons.
Yeah, no, comprehensive report there of, and support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Callum.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy with the report from General Manager's activities, and look forward to the consolidated report of resolutions at the end.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors, please? Councillor McCarthy.
Are our staff aware of our policies, especially with grading of ramps on public roads?
Through the General Manager.
Through the chair, as part of our recruitment, our ongoing practices, policies are provided to staff constantly.
So we're well aware that we don't grade within 6 metres of a ramp.
I can defer to the Technical Services Director.
Yeah, through the chair, certainly I'm aware of the policy. Again, Councillor McCarthy, depending on, I suppose, the nature of the repair on the road, council staff can't leave certainly your road in disrepair either, but do certainly take the point about grading up to cattle ramps and I suppose the potential to push material within the ramps themselves. So staff are quite well aware of that particular aspect.
I thought a gateway was damaged, that was all, in grading too close to the ramp, that was all?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of such ones, not to say that there isn't, but I'll take that on notice and I'll endeavour to find a bit more information on that one.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the monthly activity report, General Manager? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. We'll now take a 5-minute break, councillors. It's 8:10. We will resume at 8:15. The corporate secretary. Councillors, we're on page 110, item 1402, monthly activity report, planning and development. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have someone to move that way, please? Councillor McCarthy and Councillor Doney, thank you. Councillor McCarthy, wish to speak to the report?
It's pretty straightforward. Just after our informal briefing with the independent living units on page 110, the 9 carports, the responsibility to erect them is with the builder, isn't it? That's to the Director of Corporate Services.
Through the chair, I could probably answer that, and the answer is no, but we're looking at for a contractor to appropriately construct those 9 carports, is my understanding.
Okay, I was led to believe it was a part of the contract for the units. Okay.
Is that it, Councillor McCarthy?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just on page 110, before I comment, I asked the question about the planning assets. I do think, as I said in the earlier item about the subdivision of O'Connell, I think our staff have done a much improved and exhaustive job that I'd like the General Manager to pass on in response to the submissions, and I thought it was a good document they put forward. Having said that, although I didn't always agree with all of it, I still thought it was a good document. What hope have we got in transition of getting a town planner? We had a hard enough time getting the last one. What are we going to do in the meantime, Mr. General Manager?
Through the chair, currently you're looking at the planning director, who is trying to keep a ship pointed in the right direction, trying to get some assistance. At this point in time, it's been very difficult to try and find someone to come for a short period of time. However, in saying that, the application notification, or the advertising has now been completed, and we should be looking to progress interviews in the very near future.
Are they interviews for interim or for permanent?
They are interviews for the permanent position.
And do we have a tap of consultants we can use?
Wouldn't that be fantastic if we had those? No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Is it Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm having a little trouble hearing the General Manager. I don't know if other people are. On this item, Madam Mayor, the last two meetings in August and September, I've asked for a breakdown of where we are schedule-wise and cost-wise against the original budget and the original schedule. That was raised in the August meeting, and then in September meeting, I raised it again, and I was assured we would get it for this meeting. And I'd asked for it in August, and I was assured in September. The General Manager will remember that he said, yes, that's in accordance with our new contract management policy, and it will be provided in the October meeting. It's not here. So on that basis, I don't believe that I can accept this report, and I'll be voting against it.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you wish to respond, General Manager?
Through the chair, totally agree with trying to provide a breakdown for the councils. The project's not yet completed, and we're looking to complete it within October, so we are there. If a similar type project, additional reports will be provided through the grants report. I note the concerns from the councillor.
Thank you. Any other comments here, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation. All in favour? 6 against. Thank you. The recommendation is carried. Page 115, item 1403, monthly activity report, technical services. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKechnie, thank you. And Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Councillor McKechnie, do you wish to comment on the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, it's a fairly thorough report, and it's noted that this time of the year, the outdoor staff particularly busy with parks and gardens and road repairs from storm damage, and it's a lot of good feedback on the removal of vegetation from the roadsides, and also the grading in the outer areas around some of our southwestern areas, Jarula and Shooters Hill out that way, Arkstone. So a lot of good comments from that. So I think the staff seem to be doing a good job under trying circumstances at the moment, and the different areas of the LGA certainly showing the benefit of it. So I have no problem in recommending this report accepted.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, it's a fine report, Madam Mayor. Is there any anticipation when the Carwood Road will be sealed and the other part of Ginkin, other part of the road out of Ginkin?
To the Director.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, certainly we had some plans for our contractor Fulton Hogan to come this Wednesday, well, into Thursday.
Seem to be having a bit of a technical issue with the Technical Services Director.
Stage.
Sorry, Technical Services Director, could you repeat that? You blanked out.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, look, the first road off on the list is Carwood Road, and hopefully, if the weather holds out, we'll be able to start that on Thursday morning with Fulton Hogan when they arrive on site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation, all in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Page 119, item 1404, monthly activity report, corporate services. The recommendation is there that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Is there a mover, please? Councillor Doney, thank you. And Councillor McKibben, thank you. Councillor Doney, wish to speak to this report?
Forgive me, I forgot to unmute. Only to commend it on the variety of community activities that it highlights. I think that some of these are really terrific, and I commend the division on its participation in the community. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Doney. Councillor McKibben? Councillor McKibben?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, the report is particularly extensive. Obviously, continues to show us where we are with rate payments. And obviously, interesting to see what's happening in the Microsoft 365 world with some artificial intelligence, etc. And also, we obviously interested to see what's happening with the EMS group with the 3 contenders for providing that. One of them being the current provider, Civica, and another 2. So we all wait with bated breath to see where we get to with that. But yeah, and it's good to see that the library is continuing to offer a whole lot of services, and that coffees have moved on, are moving ahead with looking at what the community wants for the new community hub project. On that basis, I'm very pleased to second the recommendation that this report be taken as read.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Councillor McCarthy?
With the rate categories and the outstanding balance, isn't it odd to have 40% of the residential rate still outstanding? This is not a true indication, is it? On page 121.
Through the Mayor, remembering that the rates are a month behind this year, they only went out a month later, so it's not a true picture. The true picture won't come until probably the December meeting for the first half of this year.
So that's not an outstanding rate from last year, is it?
No, it's in total. It includes this and last year.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments here, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation, all in favour. Carried, thank you. Page 126, item 1405, statement of investments. The recommendation is that council receive the report item as information. Can I have a mover, please? Can I have a mover, please, councillors? Councillor Doney and Councillor McKibben, thank you. Councillor Doney, do you wish to speak to this to the recommendation?
I think it's always good to see the solid position of our investments, and I wish us and the economy all well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doney. Councillor McKibben.
No, Madam Mayor. I think the report speaks for itself, so I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments, councillors? I'm putting the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 129, item 1406, grants monthly update. The recommendation is that the report item is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKibben, and a seconder, please. Councillor Kellam, thank you. Councillor McKibben, do you wish to speak to the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a detailed report and has given us a very good synopsis of where we are with our grants and the new grants that one of them of which we've currently been talking about, and also the Stream 2, which we talked about before the break. Also interesting is the breakdown on the Oberon Fitness Centre project, and I think there's a variance of how I read it is 331 against the original budgeted amount plus approved variations and additional funding obtained for fit out of the centre, etc. So I think that's a good result. And I think the total contribution, the council and the general manager will correct me, that means is $25,331 for this project's capital cost, if I'm not wrong, which is great for the facility that we have. And we can only hope that projects in the future go this well. I also think that I think there's a reference to the round 5 Building Better Regions Fund round 5, the 200 million that's been set aside in the 2021. And that's expected to open in November 2020. And that's what I think we've talked about somewhat previously, being between 20,000 and 10 million. So, Madam Mayor, I commend the report, and it's set out, as always, very easily to read.
Just to clarify, Councillor McKibben, what we were talking about before with the minimum being 20,000, that's the second phase of the Community Resilience Fund grants, the bushfire one.
Okay, so the grant on page, the Building Better Regions Fund round 5 is a further one that we can apply for.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kellam.
Nothing further to add.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 134, 1407, water usage drought assistance. The recommendation is that report item is received as information and be noted. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Gibbons, thank you, and Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Gibbons, do you wish to speak to the recommendation? Councillor Gibbons? Yep, you are.
Happy with the recommendation. Great to see that we've got 32% in the dam at the moment, so it's still probably creeping up. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy?
No, happy with the report, Madam Mayor. It's just interesting to see a Palicon being filled up today over at the water being distributed. But anyway, happy with the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on this one, councillors? Put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 135, item 1408, water and sewer plant report. The recommendation is that the report be received as information. A mover, please, councillors. Councillor Doney, thank you. A seconder, please. And Councillor Kellam, thank you. Do you wish to speak to the report, Councillor Doney? We need to unmute.
Forgive me. I have a question. I'm not sure whether we can deal with it. In my reading of the dirty water issues relating to, the water plant, there was a variety of reasons given. The questions from the public seem to suggest that there was a totally different set of reasons as to why we had the dirty water problem. Now, I'm looking for assistance here. the reasons given in my earlier reading were, low levels and, wind direction and turbulence and all this sort of stuff. And then the questions from the public seemed to say that, our pumps were no good and the whole thing went diddly squat. Can I get some clarification on what exactly was the source of the dirty water problem?
Through the General Manager.
Ex-Services Director will adequately explain, I'm sure.
Technical Service Director.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that. Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, certainly a combination of issues. In previous reports, there was a reference to a potassium permanganate pump that had a big minor malfunction, very short one. Certainly didn't attribute to the dirty water, but over time, certainly we have had mains replacements around town. There was one stage that it did create a, when they connected a new pipeline to the existing retic, did stir the existing mains up. That's one instance, but certainly with seasonal change, the dam being so low, the dam does still have what they call a turnover, which does unfortunately have metals draw up from the bottom of the dam. Water New South Wales constantly monitor the quality of water and the water takeoff and delivery to our water treatment plant. But again, with the dam levels being so low, and again, you can have certainly issues with inflow from rain events and the like, but the metals are the main issues with the dam being as low as they are. And again, today we've had indications of high manganese coming from Water New South Wales from the dam into our water treatment plant or as raw water. So certainly the analysis from our guys in treating that water is underway. So we don't, again, we don't anticipate any further issues. Over time, there can be interlining build-up within pipes. That is a regular and systematic ongoing maintenance thing for all councils or water authorities, and that's by means of flushing mains. But we have tried to reserve that in the recent times with the dam levels being so low, and trying to, I suppose, conserve water as much as we can. But unfortunately, we may be faced with ongoing program of having to flush mains, more regular than we would anticipate. So there's some of the issues or key issues that have resulted in some of the dirty water of recent.
Thank you, Technical Services Director. Councillor Doney.
Madam Mayor, and so thank you, Director. And so with the continued need to flush the pipe system, how much of that was the result of hardware issues? I mean, I realise it's a mixture of things, but the questions from the public seem to zero in on hardware issues and manpower issues.
Through the chair, yeah, certainly not attributed from, I suppose, unqualified plant operators. Certainly, rest assured, our plant operators are qualified, and these issues again around low dam levels and elevated metal levels such as magnesium, iron, and those types of things that are found in certainly dams have attributed to these issues. We are working closely with the Department of Primary Industry and Environment in relation to ongoing monitoring of water quality, and rest assured that certainly meeting the Australian drinking water guidelines. So it's not again any fault of malfunction of the plant. It's just really a constant day-to-day monitoring of what water we are receiving from the dam and treating it accordingly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kellam, did you wish to comment on the report?
No, Madam Mayor, I'm quite happy with it.
Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whilst I note it's pleasing to see that the dam is 32% full, I'm very concerned that it is only 32% full with the amount of rain that has occurred over the last, let's say, 7 or 8 months. And it seems to me that we have a long-term problem in that our dam is not going to meet the requirements of Oberon and the other requirements of Sydney Water that they demand of it. And that can be for a number of reasons. It is a proven fact that when forests are planted around areas to which are water catchment areas for dams, the runoff is significantly reduced. So I'm suggesting that Oberon, and I think that the proposal for the Duck Malloy Weir is not, whilst it's a good start, is not the ultimate solution. And maybe Oberon has to look at a new dam as well as the current dam, because the area has had a considerable amount of rain this year, but the runoff is not sufficient to meet our dam our requirements. And it's going to be interesting to see where we are in January, February 2021, noting that we are still continuing, still expecting that in this La Nina we will have greater rainfall certainly than the last 2 years. But the issue is we've only filled this dam to 32%. Do we have to start strategically looking at having another additional dam, especially while in the current situation where we have governments who really have not built a major dam for the last 20 years or 50 years, I think it is 50 years, are now actually interested in looking at dams. I just ask that strategically and put that on the table, because we are not going to be able to cope with a significantly greater population if we can only have a 32% full dam at this stage of the year with higher than expected rainfall.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. I will state that since we have been speaking with various authorities and the Minister, Water New South Wales, who own our water and our dam, are looking at various options. They are already starting to think about that. And we just have to keep lobbying and keep the pressure up to make sure it stays up on their agenda. But they are looking at several options. Any other comments here, councillors? Councillor McCarthy.
When does the sealing of these upgraded mains that have been repaired, how long from when the mains are completed do we seal the road again? Like over near the high school, high traffic area?
Through the chair, certainly something we monitor, Councillor McCarthy, and as the trenches do subside, it's no use in sealing them straight away. They need to be topped, and then in due course will be sealed. So it's not something that we do straight after laying pipes, given the subsidence issues.
So we don't compact the fill?
Again, yes, there is a certain amount of compaction that is done, but unfortunately, look, again, it's a bit of a time waiting game with the trenches do again subside. So it would be just, if we seal them now, we'd be coming back and actually trying to top them again with bitumen, which seems pointless and I suppose cost prohibitive. So we let them subside a little bit and then top them before we seal them.
So what's the time frame?
That particular section was done during the school holidays, given it was the most appropriate time with school closure. So look, probably within the next 2 weeks, I would imagine we'll resource that to occur.
Okay, thank you. And
Councillor Gibbons.
Yes, Lady Mayor, just continuing on what Councillor McKibben was saying, I heard on the wireless only this week that the Lithgow pipeline from the Fish River had a blowout and they've lost a lot of water there. I really think Lithgow should be thinking about the seriousness of the water situation as well, because they obviously are taking water there at the moment, and the water goes straight from our dam down to Lithgow. And talking about dams, there's certainly the infrastructure is at the Duck Malloy Weir, and good place for a dam. But we just got from a joint organisation, do the Lithgow people participate in that?
No, they're in a different organisation.
Right.
And bear in mind too, Councillor Gibbons, that as the dam level falls, or so does the allocation to Lisco and the other licence holders.
That's right. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments here, councillors? I'll put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Page 138, 1409. Monthly update, status of council resolutions. The recommendation is that the report item 1409 is received as information. Can I have somebody to move this, please? Councillors? Councillor McCarthy, and a seconder, please. Councillor McKechnie, thank you. Councillor McCarthy, do you wish to speak to this recommendation?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, it's pretty straightforward. Just to query the General Manager, should the park to a town block be in Gwenamere Avenue be a part of this system? It's been on the books for a long time. Should it be noted in this system?
Are you saying that something's missing from it, councillor? Is that your point?
Well, I understand that the block of land that's a playground is to be converted into a residential block,
Right.
and it's been going for a long time, but it's not on this list of an action. Should it be on this action list?
To the General Manager.
The Chair, it was part of the rezoning process that we went through when we looked at our reserves, and my understanding is that's been resolved. So I'm more than happy to take that up and try and see where it sits.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor McKechnie, do you wish to speak to the recommendation?
Madam Mayor, thank you. I'm happy to second the motion. It's certainly an improvement and a lot easier way to look at the progress and outstanding actions on resolutions. So, yeah, but I have no question on the resolutions.
Thank you, councillor. Any other comments here, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
McKibben.
Can I just ask through you to the General Manager whether the application to the Western Joint Regional Planning Panel on page 143 in relation to the new sports complex is going to proceed and be lodged by the end of this month?
Excuse me.
Through the Chair, we're just waiting for our partners, being Borgs, to finalise those reports that we asked for. I'm keen to see it lodged by then. However, I have a meeting with Borgs next week and I'll discuss where that is up to.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. Any other? I'll put the recommendation, councillors. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Page 153, item 1410, dirty water report. The recommendation is that the report item 1410 is received as information. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor McKechnie, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Kellum, thank you. Councillor McKechnie, do you wish to speak to this report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we've discussed it in previous items tonight. This is pretty much a recap of the director's answers to some previous questions, and yeah, good report for information, and pleasing to note that we're supplying drinking water that complies with the Australian drinking water guidelines, and the issue might be ongoing, but it's certainly decreased, and I think people are happy that there's been some positive actions and some swift actions to rectify the problem, or to bring the problem down to a manageable level. So, yep, I'm happy to accept the report.
Thank you, Councillor McKechnie. Councillor Callum, do you wish to speak to the report?
Yes, I do, Madam Mayor. I note that the water treatment plant operated as it was supposed to operate, and that's good. But the Technical Service Director also notes that it's absolutely necessary to enable the mains to be flushed of all sediments that were built up over the past few years. Flushing the mains is a normal maintenance practice which is usually carried out annually. Can the Technical Service Director tell me when the last time those mains were flushed?
Yeah, through the chair. Certainly, they haven't been flushed for some time. Again, within all my, I suppose, all the water reports that I put to council, certainly we haven't experienced, I suppose, dam levels this low for quite some time. However, as I say, with the depleting dam levels, we have sort of backed off on. Look, it probably going back from the records that I have around about probably 2014, I think was the last time that was done. And it is substantially some time in between, obviously now and 2014, no doubt. But again, certainly we haven't had detection of certainly metal levels this high, so or dirty water complaints to that end.
So was there any risk assessment done on the fact that we hadn't flushed the mains for 6 years when it's meant to be an annual job and it should be regular, to use your words, regular, systematic and ongoing?
Again, probably to the extent that we have flushed them this time. Yeah, look, by all means, I mean, water mains have or hydrants have been opened, and dirty water, as dirty water does sometimes reticulate through systems, has been flushed. But again, the need to strip them out like we have with the high metal levels hasn't been done because it hasn't been an instance that has required us to do it to this extent. So again, we are going to be proactive in that area and certainly have instigated a program now to really keep a bit more of an eye on that.
So your regular, systematic and ongoing program of doing annual maintenance by flushing the mains was not undertaken for 6 years?
Again, look, I don't have an account of or records to indicate to this extent, as I say, of what we've done here of recent. So, sorry? If you just let me finish.
Was it 5 years?
Well, as I say, the last time I recall is back in 2014. Again, that's not to say that hydrants haven't been opened and mains have been cleared off sediments and the like. So it's not that council hasn't been proactive in this space and opened up mains. But again, the stripping of mains to the extent that we've had to do this time hasn't been done for some time. And again, it's something that I will be looking at, more systematically, over the coming years.
Madam Mayor, through you, I'd ask the General Manager to supply the councillors with evidence of when the last time the water mains were systematically and regularly flushed. And also, what is the planned maintenance routine for our reticulated water system in terms of flushing the mains? Because it would appear that there has been no systematic, regular and ongoing process of maintaining our water mains for up to 6 years. And when something is as important as fresh water, that is not acceptable at all.
I'm more than happy to provide a report back to council outlining those things. I must admit, as the Technical Service Director has indicated, is that it's not that the Technical Services Department do not do testing.
But you don't, when you don't test, if you're not flushing, you won't know.
Again, through the chair.
Procedures to what council will, what I'll get the Tech Services Director to also do is to provide council with an overview on the pretty substantial testing regime that they go through and what processes they go to look at water and water quality. So we get an overall understanding about why this is. More than happy to take that on board and provide a report back to you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm very well aware of the testing regime that is done, but when sediments build up in pipes, you won't discover that by testing. You discover it by flushing. And if there is meant to be an annual routine, which is regular, systematic and ongoing, they should be flushed yearly. And if not, there should be a risk assessment as to what the effect on our potential effect on our water supply is.
Thank you, Councillor. The General Manager has indicated he will bring back a report. Any other questions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or queries here, councillors? I'm going to put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. We're up to page 155, councillors. Urgent business. There is no urgent business this evening. Item 16, closed session and confidential reports. I will now go to the General Manager, who has a submission before we move into council, closed council.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just, as I flagged earlier in the night, there was another part to Mr. Draham's letter to council for their consideration. It's not necessarily a question of the public, but more a submission under the provisions of the Local Government Act, and that submission states that as a ratepayer, I wish to make a representation to council under section 10A4 or the Local Government Act in conjunction with the Code of Meeting Practice 14.9 in accordance to 1411 relating to agenda item 1601 water damage claims. Dirty water has caused damage and hardship to local residents and businesses, and any claims ought to be made public so as to inform the whole community about the severity of the issue as it is in the public interest. I refer to 14.6 of the Code of Meeting Practice. It is irrelevant that B, the discussion of the matter may, 1, cause embarrassment to the council or to employees of council, or 2, cause a loss of confidence in the council. It is acknowledged personal details of the claimant ought to stay confidential. However, the underlying root cause of hardship and damage are not confidential matters for closed session. Please address potential further damages claims as part of 1410 together with point 3 above. I'll provide an answer to that by saying that it is up to the General Manager to provide evidence as to why a matter should be considered in confidential or in closed. This matter deals with personal claims and are private to those individuals and fall under 10A2/B of the Local Government Act. This information has been provided confidentially to council, and if made public, would prejudice the confidential way in which the information has been provided. So as such, I stand by the fact that this matter should be dealt with in closed session.
Thank you, General Manager. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government Act General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of a kind as referred to in section 10A(2) of the Act and should be dealt with in a part of the meeting closed to the media and the public. I'd now call for a councillor to move us into closed session. Councillor Kellerman, a seconder, please. Councillor McKibben. All in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. I'd like to thank the members of the public for joining this evening's Zoom meeting, and I request that the Minute Secretary turn off the recording at 9 p.m. It's now resumed and it is 10:15. The following resolutions were made in closed session and there were no members of the public present at this time. Item 1601, that council resolve to further investigate claims. That council resolve to advise the community that analysis is underway into potential into potential rebates for excess water, and a further report will be considered at the November council meeting. Item 1602, that council resolve to accept the tendered submission from TrackServe Proprietary Limited for the replacement of plant 41, being one Isuzu 240 by 350 MWB 6x4 auto speed truck fitted with a 12,500 litre water tanks in accordance with Council's 2020-21 plant replacement program and tender T 2020/5 vehicle specification. That Council resolved to sell plant 41, the used 2008 Mitsubishi Fuso 51J water truck in its entirety to Pickled Auctions Proprietary Limited. Item 1603, that Council resolve to reaffirm its decision not to endorse the request for deferral of Section 94 contributions pending the sale of each allotment within Stage 4 of the Springfield Street subdivision, as it could set a precedent for other like development. Item 1604, that Council resolve to note the report item for information. Item 1605, that Council resolve to delegate authority to the Mayor and General Manager to negotiate and finalise the terms of the management agreement. That Council give public notice in accordance with Section 47 of the Local Government Act, indicating that a management agreement has been resolved between Council and the Y New South Wales relating to the ongoing management of the Oberon Pool and Fitness Centre. That Council resolve, following Oberon Council and the Y New South Wales agreeing to the terms of a management agreement, that approval of the New South Wales Government being obtained under Section 47 of the Local Government Act, accept the tender submission from the Y New South Wales to undertake the management of the Oberon Pool and Fitness Centre for a 5 year term. That Council, following endorsement of 1 to 3 inclusive, delegate authority to the Mayor and General Manager to execute the management agreement. I declare this meeting closed at 10:17. The next ordinary council meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 17th at 2020, commencing at 5:30 p.m. Thank you, councillors, for your attendance, and thank you to the public. Good night.
Council, Madam Mayor, there was an error.
Where? How?
There was an error in
Yes.
the reading of the last one.